Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Nautical, Retired Veterans, Awakening Yamamoto Genryūsai Template. Chapter 61. Boom. Thousands of meters of sky seemed to collapse in pieces. The blinding white light that fills the sky seems to turn night into day in an instant. The destructive power fell instantly. Its range directly expanded to nearly 10,000 meters. Thereafter, a series of attacks containing incomparably terrifying power came, covering the sea area below and even several nearby islands. In front of this destructive force falling from the sky, whether it is any person, life, thing or thing below this moment, it seems that they are all trembling ants on the ground, waiting to meet the destruction of God. Are those fools of the world government crazy? 9 Masters. Kaido looked up. There was an unconcealable tremor in his pupils. Although he didn't know what the attack in the sky was. But it is possible to make such a big deal. Only the world government and will die. Kaido coughed up a mouthful of blood, his eyes flickered violently. In his current state, whether it's the terrifying high temperature here on this battlefield, or the attack from the world government in the sky, it's definitely not something he can bear now. Moreover, even the General Marshal was killed by the world government just now, and they did not use this method. Obviously, the plan is now to destroy him and that man here together. Kaido, who had figured everything out, roared angrily. Suddenly, Kaido's pupils froze suddenly. I see. That's Bayi's position, facing the absolute attack, coming from the sky. This is the power of Uranus, seeing that it was a destructive attack directed at him. I didn't expect to meet so soon. Aware of the remaining physical strength after fighting Kaido, Bayi faced the Uranus, one of the 3 ancient weapons suspected to be mastered by the world government. Bayi raised his head, feeling the power contained in it. A look of indifference flashed in his eyes. Let me see, the so-called absolute power. Will you be able to destroy me, or will I completely overturn you? A coldness flashed in his eyes. Bayi raised his left hand. Subsequently, this kind of flashy attack, as long as it is crushed by Zhang, is enough. Boom. The terrifying Reiatsu was released, and the nearby melting ground suddenly began to tremble violently. Centered on Bayi, visible to the naked eye as the surrounding atmosphere and space ripples. The ground beneath his feet cracked countless times. This scene came into view. Feel the terrifying aura emanating from Bayi. Not far away, Kaido's pupils widened. That monster. What a joke. After a battle, is it still that powerful? Subsequently, a scene that Kaido will never forget in his life appeared. Boom, boom, boom. The entire trembling battlefield suddenly seemed to be a earth dragon turning over. On the dry seabed, several gigantic stone pillars suddenly rose from the ground. The strong man stood on it, followed by Hado's 99. The voice rang out. This is the terrifying Reiatsu that has turned the entire Grand Line into disbelief. The space is completely distorted. Thereafter, this is a total of 5 heads composed of a large number of almost substantive horror Reiatsu, exuding a destructive breath and roaring. The Eastern Dragon appeared. 5 swirling dragons of destruction! Exclamation mark. Suddenly, an Oriental dragon made of the unimaginable Reiatsu soars to the sky. Next moment, attack from Uranus meets Hado unleashed by Bayi. Boom. A terrible roar resounds through the sky. Echoes in the Grand Line. In the eyes of countless people outside the coverage of the Uranus attack, this is a horrifying picture appeared. Every attack of the power descending from the sky is enough to wipe out everything, leaving a terrifying trace like an abyss wherever it touches. No one will question it. Under that kind of power, as long as any kingdom stays in it for a moment, or even a few seconds, it will be completely wiped out of its existence. That appalling scalp-tingling attack today is destined to subvert the worldview of anyone who has witnessed that terrible picture. However, destroy almost everything there. The aftermath set off a terrifying tsunami. Go straight to the Sabaody Islands, Naval Headquarters Marineford, before dozens of nearby islands. In that terrifying attack, a more powerful and palpitating aura descended. Thereafter, after everything around that battlefield was devastated, that's several hundreds of meters of terrifying Reiatsu dragons roaring. Stand up. Face the attack from sky. Forward towards the sky. A series of attacks and the encounter with the huge Reiatsu dragon begin. But it didn't work at all. It's like tickling the dragon Reiatsu instead. There's nothing stopping you from progressing. Then, it is precisely because everything near the battlefield in that sea area was destroyed. When a dragon made of pure, almost materialized Reiatsu rips through the very center of its attack. Rush through the sky. A split second, sunlight fell along the center of the attack range covering nearly 10,000 meters. That moment, give Grand Line the shock of the world. It's as if the sky has been completely pierced. Flicky. This is Bayi's evaluation of the absolute destruction power of the world government that made Kong empty to death. If the Uranus, one of the three ancient weapons suspected to be in the hands of the world government, is to concentrate all attack energy in one place, Bayi is undeniable. In his current situation, Uranus's does threaten his credentials. However, only cover attacks like this downpour, although it has the power to easily wipe out any kingdom on the Grand Line. But based on this, I want to completely throw away day and night on this battlefield. In Bayi's eyes, it can only be said to be too naive. Such an overly diffuse, flashy attack, even if his physical strength is really exhausted in successive battles. Reiatsu only, just crush it. Boom, boom. Now, as the most central area from Uranus attacked, it seemed as if the entire sky was pierced, and the sun shone from the sky, shocking the entire Grand Line world. The aftermath of the terrible attack Uranus unleashed at this time also began. The tsunami spread to Sabaody Islands, Summit War, Calm Belt, and dozens of surrounding islands. The entire first half of the Grand Line. Whoever saw all this? When you are pulled back to reality by the overwhelming tsunami that greets you, the first terrifying thought of trembling from the inside out came to mind. World, is it really going to be destroyed? Even if it is a pirate who is ambitious on the islands at the bottom of Sabaody and intends to go to the New World to develop his ambitions. Facing that is only aftermath. It is enough to destroy all tsunami disasters. At this time, he fell to the ground uncontrollably like an ordinary person. It shows the despair in their hearts. Summit War. When witnessing the scene where the sky was pierced on the sea area far away. Whether it is marine or pirate here, they all froze in place. Then, when the sea outside naval headquarters was discovered, the aftermath of a tsunami hundreds of meters high appeared overwhelming. The Summit War battle subconsciously stopped at this moment. Am I not dreaming? Or is it all a dream? Whether it is marine or pirates, there is an unreal feeling. A long time, Sangoku, who was still one of the few insiders present, was the first to recover. Cursed secretly, world government is really crazy. To destroy that man, he did not hesitate to do so. Is the world government planning to destroy the entire first half of the Grand Line? Immediately, after cursing secretly, Sangoku shouted to prepare all Marines for the oncoming impact. As for the Whitebeard pirates, a distraught Sangoku has no time to care. After all, if you don't bring the Marine participating in the Summit War back to God, it was only affected by the attacks of the world government's own people. Watching the overwhelming tsunami hit outside Marineford, Sangoku had no doubts, but enough to destroy almost half of naval headquarters. And this time, compared to Sangoku who made the first move, Whitebeard also chose to temporarily suspend this Summit War without hesitation. The other side, Calm Belt, Amazon Lily. This shock is. My mother-in-law's pupils narrowed. Feel the aftermath of power that even Calm Belt is shaking. In a flash, Granny Yi appeared on the edge of Nine Snake Island. Looking at the terrifying sky piercing the picture over the sea in the extreme distance. The mother-in-law's reaction was almost suffocating. It is different from the fact that the outside world does not know who did it on the battlefield over there. But that's why. Why is my mother-in-law afraid of feeling such a strong shock for the first time? That one is from North Blue. A monster alone, does it really have the possibility of subverting the world government? This moment, the mother-in-law who has gone through several eras was shaken in her heart. Perhaps, Snake Princess is really not delusional. The other side, at the same time, the whole first half of the Grand Line was felt in a real sense of a terrible shock at the same time. World government, Sanctuary Mariejois, Pangu City. Boom. 5 elders felt that the shaking outside could even permeate the red line. The 5 people were shocked by the terrifying power of Uranus. The 5 people also breathed a sigh of relief. The sinner, who is a threat to the world government, will definitely not be able to survive this time. And together with the 4 emperors Kaido. Although in the process, the spread of power will sacrifice an unknown number of untouchables living in the first half of the Grand Line. But in the eyes of 5 elders, it's all totally worth it. Eliminate evil and do everything. The world government does not allow a second, Rocks, pirate group to appear in this era. Even if they don't know what power is hidden behind the man alone. But as long as you kill the sinner, who has the strongest combat power, the goal of the world government to shock the whole world has been achieved. The rest is nothing more than taking time to clean up slowly. Then erase all traces of that man's existence, just like erasing the history of the Rocks pirates who were in full swing, or the history of Ohara who tried to study the text of history. Completely hidden in history, how to clean up the follow-up. They are the most proficient at it. Anyway, even the World Economic News newspaper did not dare to disobey the orders of the world government. And manipulating public opinion is tantamount to manipulating the whole world. Anyway, those guys living at the bottom are not qualified to know the truth and history. Is it over? Master, I am. The shaggy bearded 5 elders looked up. Prepare to order someone to notify the World Economic News newspaper. The big news of the first day. That is, the big sinner, who attempted to threaten the security of the world, will be personally eliminated by the world government. Then, announce that sinner to the world as an enemy of the world. It can be said that 5 elders will have Bayi's death, and all the scripts have been arranged every step of the way. Eliminate sinners from the perspective of justice. What a glorious and great deed of world government. By the way, all the towns that were destroyed in North Blue can be blamed on that sinner. That would make the perfect scapegoat for what the world government did in North Blue earlier. The plan for dealing with the follow-up can be described as watertight. Shaggy bearded 5 elders prepare to consult the figure sitting on the void throne, where no one should be able to sit. However, just looked up. The face of 5 elders with the fluffy beard couldn't help changing slightly. Because of the sight, the lord sitting on the void throne didn't show any reaction that he had successfully erased the sinner. Instead, the shaggy bearded 5 elders vaguely caught a sinking gaze from above. He reacts very quickly. A sense of foreboding was felt almost immediately. What happened, combined with the adult's sinking gaze? Suddenly, 5 elders thought of a possibility that he couldn't believe at all. All kinds of thoughts flooded into my mind, and finally, I lost my voice. Could it be that a sinner survived? How can that be? That is the power that claims to be enough to destroy the world. The fluffy bearded 5 elders felt uncontrollable horror at this moment. He turned his head subconsciously, staring at the outside direction of Mariejois behind him. As the highest power in charge of the world government, the celestial dragons are the highest positions. With the power in their hands and their status in the world government. Already qualified enough to know the core secrets of the world government. That's why, in this world, no one knows better than them the horror of the attack just now. Uranus, that is possessing the legendary power to truly destroy the world. One of the 3 ancient weapons that are as famous as Poseidon, and Pluto, which have disappeared into history. Just one click. Almost any kingdom on the Grand Line will be completely wiped of all traces of it in just a few seconds. It is precisely because of this that it relies on such terrifying power. World government in the past hundreds of years of history. Although every few eras, there will be some kingdoms and forces that dare to defy the world government. But in the face of the power of Uranus, the final outcome can only be completely reduced to a part of history buried by the world government. So to speak, the existence of Uranus. It firmly maintains the absolute rule-making power of the world government over this sea rule. This time, they also thought without exception at first that sinner will die under the sanction sent down by God. Because throughout the 800 years since the establishment of the world government, the lamps that each age tried to light up have been extinguished, and they have completely disappeared. Even the world has no way of knowing that those kingdoms and forces once existed. Even if you look through the historical records of various countries, you can only find vague traces of words at most, and it is impossible to prove its existence at all. However, in the eyes of five elders, such a terrifying, absolute power. Judging from the reaction of Master, I am, today. The faces of the other 4-5 elders who reacted changed drastically, their pupils shrank sharply, and a drop of cold sweat quietly slipped down from their foreheads and landed on the carpet of the Great Hall of Pengu City. God's sanction. Is it going to be the first defeat? The hearts of the 5 elders were filled with turmoil. This moment, Bayi's threat level in the eyes of 5 elders. It's close to, no, it should completely surpass the Rocks pirate group that was in full swing. After all, based on their available intelligence, it is not difficult to know, at least on the Grand Line, that horrible monster from the North Blue, who has done everything to this day and has been alone. One person. First, the pacifist fleet was easily destroyed. Secondly, Naval Headquarters, a subsidiary of the world government, sent 2 Marine admirals with the highest combat power, but they were unable to take them down. Instead, one died and the other was injured. Now the Generalissimo of the world government's army, Kong, took action himself. But news of death came again. In addition, God's sanction has lost for the first time in hundreds of years. The 5 elders were unimaginable at the moment. Once the outside world knows the world government's secret operation taking advantage of the Summit War, it will end like this. This world, no, what will become of this era in the future? Block, that's right. The shaggy bearded 5 elders suppressed their horror. First reaction, it is no matter what. All news must be firmly blocked in the first half of the Grand Line. Otherwise, once the news spreads to the whole world, even the New World, the world government stands behind the marine government with all the prestige built up over the centuries. It will be like the previous marine government. Not only did he not succeed in eradicating that sinner. On the contrary, all the images that the world government has established to the outside world for hundreds of years will become a stepping stone for that person's reputation in the outside world. This crazy idea was born, however, with the news that a communication bug suddenly brought. But it made the 5 elders' collective face change again. With the appearance of Uranus in the first half of the Grand Line, there was a shock of terror. If you want to say that the forces that get news the fastest in this world, who else is there besides the world government? The answer is of course World Economic News. Its scale spreads all over the world, and the albatross in every corner is the eyeliner of the World Economic News newspaper. Coupled with the huge subscription group of the World Economic News, including pirates, bounty hunters, various kingdoms, underground dark forces and so on. This advantage is sometimes unmatched by even the world government. Therefore, before the start of the Operation Demon Slaughter, the first move of the world government was to dispatch members of the CPO to forcibly monitor the World Economic News newspaper. While preventing the slightest news from leaking out, take the opportunity to prepare to further use the World Economic News newspaper to expand the influence of the world government. Before the start of the operation, the big news connected by the world government has been prepared in advance. Can now, action failed. The big news that was intended to create public opinion is naturally all completely abolished. A piece of bad news that 5 elders couldn't accept. They underestimated that Morgans this time. As one of the 5 giants of the underground dark world, the king of news, Morgans took advantage of the Grand Line, eventually forcibly escaped from the CPO's surveillance. In other words, the World Economic News newspaper is now completely out of the control of the world government. Next, I'm afraid, a week, no, maybe just one day. The whole world will know about this unprecedented defeat of the world government. It can be said, the current situation, even in the eyes of 5 elders, is already too bad to be in a worse situation. In fact, this moment, somewhere in the new world, things are going in the worst possible direction for 5 elders. As one of the 5 giants of the underground dark world, Morgans naturally knew the consequences of offending the world government. But compared to the consequences of offending, Morgans couldn't tolerate the faction he built himself as a subsidiary of the world government. And as a businessman, with a keen sense of smell, Morgan saw an unimaginably dire business opportunity this time around in the news the first half of the Grand Line received. A business opportunity enough for him to take the risk of offending the world government. The world government lost for the first time in hundreds of years, and even the commander-in-chief of the whole army died in battle. It is conceivable that once such shocking news appears in the four seas, the New World, and all over the world, while igniting the whole world an era, the sails of world economic news will definitely take the opportunity to explode several times, maybe more than that. Then, facing the temptation of interests, Morgans chose the latter without hesitation in the face of world government and interests. And as one of the five giants, how can you do it without any real Wangjiao strength? Therefore, after overthrowing the CPO supervisors sent by the world government, Morgans immediately chose to move the base camp. Then, a headline that was about to send the world's scalp tingling was born in Morgan's mind. The first is that the world government's first defeat in hundreds of years must be widely reported. Of course, we can't forget the key point this time, the terrifying powerhouse who appeared from North Blue. Wait, monster, or is it comparable to four emperors? From Morgan's point of view, these suggestions can all be changed. After all, alone can make the marine government, world government lose one after another fly. Even in the case of the Operation Demon Slaughter, prepared in advance, Kong, the general marshal of the army, died in battle. Based on this alone, even the Rocks pirates couldn't do it back then, right? Therefore, this one belongs to one person alone. It can represent the coming of a new era. It is enough to be praised as the title of taboo by the world. And it was born. At the same time, Grand Line, Four Seas, New World. It is destined to set off an unprecedented shock. Today, Bayi is here, bathed in the sun that pierces the center of the cloud-covered sky. Bayi stood on the stone pillar pulled up from the ground like an earth dragon turning over. It seems that there should be no second attack. 2. It is suspected that Uranus is indeed very powerful. But two scattered attacks are Bayi's biggest, fancy, weakness. Moreover, it is impossible for the world government to unconditionally display it. Otherwise, there is no need for the world government to establish marine Shichibukai. Four emperors deliberately create the so-called three major forces of peace. The power of Uranus alone is enough to hold the whole world in his hands. So, Bayi's eyes moved, falling not far away and staying below to witness everything. The mouth is wide open at the moment, and Kaido's face is full of disbelief. Now it's your turn. Wait. He was pulled back to God by Bayi's indifferent voice. Kaido's body trembled suddenly, staring at the man whose clothes were torn, showing a strong figure. Kaido's face suddenly changed. The heart is surging. Is it the second time? No, even in the Valley of God's War that year. Kaido, who was not strong enough back then, has witnessed the strength of rocks with his own eyes. There is no denying that either. The man in front of me, even the monster rocks, I'm afraid he can't compare with him. Will die, absolutely die, in his current state. Think of Bayi's previous sentence, this will be the last sight you see. Kaido couldn't help roaring, he never thought about it. As the strongest creature in the sea, land and air. There are actually people in this world who can kill themselves. Kaido couldn't accept the reality in front of him. However, now, Bayi won't care what Kaido thinks in front of him. After all, now that you have the idea of putting people to death, be prepared to be killed. It should be just the most basic and superficial truth. Raise Ryujin Jaka. Bayi is going to kill Kaido directly. But suddenly, okay, swish. This is another powerful aura coming from the farthest point of this ruined ugly battlefield. Follow closely. This is a figure galloping forward holding a long knife weapon in the shape of a western sword. Almost immediately stood in front of Bayi. Thereafter, I saw that the person was well proportioned, with striking red hair, 3 scars on the left eye, and an empty left arm, wearing a long black cloak. This look and shape, red hair, how did you come to the first half of the Grand Line? Could it be that you also wanted to take this opportunity to kill Laozi? Without Bayi opening his mouth, Kaido's pupils widened suddenly when he saw the figure, and he almost immediately called out his identity. It is not someone else who has suddenly entered the battlefield. It was red-headed Shanks, CDAE, who made the leap to one of the 4 emperors a few years ago. Kaido, shut up, or I don't have the confidence to save you. The red-haired Shanks glared at Kaido, and said lightly. After all, your subordinates have already been defeated by us in New World. They can't expect to have a chance to save your life. My subordinates, could it be that Jin's actions were destroyed by you? Kaido's expression changed when he heard this, and he was about to yell at the redhead. Suddenly, thinking of the second half of the red hair just now, Kaido's pupils widened suddenly, and his eyes were fixed on the back of the red-haired Shanks. The redhead, going to save him. What the hell is the redhead thinking? Didn't he come to take the opportunity to kill himself? What the hell is this fool looking for? Kaido was lost in thought. Red hair, Shanks saw Kaido lying on the ground shut his mouth. Then, the red-haired Shanks looked in front of him, the figure of the man who has been rumored to have shocked the Grand Line several times in the past few days. Looking around the almost completely destroyed sea area, he said slowly. There are already enough losses in this battle, so I would like to ask if I can sell my face and let this guy go. Saying that, Shanks pointed at Kaido with his western sword. Bayi faced the red-haired Shanks who appeared now. As a time traveler, he is not surprised that the red hair will come to the first half of the Grand Line. Summit Wars advance. Changed a few things though. But apparently some doomed things haven't changed. Redhead Shanks decided to join the Summit War anyway. However, if the red-haired Shanks joins the Summit War, Bayi will naturally not care. Now, a look of indifference appeared in Bayi's eyes. Redhead Shanks if Kaido is involved in the problem. So, what qualifications does a redhead have for this face? Look at the redhead Shanks. He didn't care about the other party's identity at all. The word Bayi represents his attitude towards this four emperors redhead. As a junior in age, it is necessary to save face when you speak up, and there is no reason to let Kaido, who just wanted to kill someone. Not to mention the red hair, even, One Piece, Roger is not qualified to ask Bayi for this face. Hearing this, the red-haired Shanks' eyes sank slightly, and said. In that case, I'm afraid we will have to be enemies. Although I really want to kill that guy, once that guy dies, all the balance in New World will collapse instantly. That's not what I want to see. Also, with your current physical strength, although you are very strong, there shouldn't be much left, right? Furthermore, the red-haired Shanks raised his head and looked not far away. My companion has arrived. The voice fell. Captain, don't run so fast. Yeah, those tsunamis nearly capsized our boat. That man, is that monster? This is the silhouette of several red hair pirates members running from a distance. Without exception, there is a strong aura exuding from the body. This has a lot to do with the pattern the red hair pirates developed. Although every four emperors pirate group has a huge force, red hair pirates are no exception. But unlike Whitebeard Kaido and Big Mom, red hair pirates pays more attention to personal strength than developing their own strength. Therefore, every member who can be on the red force is basically famous. This leads to a very high average bounty in red hair pirates, also known as the most balanced Iron Wall pirates. In the New World, almost no one wants to mess with the red hair pirates. However, these things, what's the deal with Bayi? An enemy of me. Bayi glanced at the subordinates who had rushed over from the red hair pirates, his face didn't change at all, and he looked back at the red-haired Shanks. What you just said can be regarded as a declaration of war, right? Feel the oncoming indifference and coldness. Red-haired Shanks' face changed slightly. The man in front of me. Even if he understands the situation at this moment, do he still plan to clash with the red hair pirates alone? Thoughts arise. However, without waiting for the redhead to speak. Among the subordinates of the red hair pirates who rushed over was a figure of a pirate with a red exploding head. Due to his fiery personality and temper, he couldn't help but said to Bayi. Hey, our captain is a proof of your friendliness for not taking advantage of others. You don't think you are capable of fighting our red hair pirates again? I'm afraid even I am qualified to fight with you now. Let's fight. The person who spoke was Rocks, who had just joined Red Hair Pirates and had a fiery and impulsive personality. Although the horror scene of the entire battlefield shocked him deeply. Maybe he can become a trainee crew member of Red Hair Pirates, in order to make his companions value him as soon as possible. Right now, in the eyes of Rocks, it is undoubtedly the best opportunity. And Red Hair Pirates is one of the four emperors. It's not like being alone like an idiot like Kaido. All of their red hair pirates cadres basically came to the first half of the Grand Line. So when he saw Bayi's attitude towards red hair, Rocks couldn't help but speak. However, Bayi's response was to raise a finger. Redhead Shanks' face changed slightly. This guy. Thoughts arise. In the next second, the Radau shockwave suddenly flew towards the rocks. There was a bang. The faces of the members of Red Hair Pirates sank, and Rocks was directly sent flying. Thereafter, face off against the entire Red Hair Pirates hordes who seemed to be on the verge of a battle. Bayi's tone was indifferent and calm. He looked down at the other party without any emotion and said, "Before you have real strength, you'd better not say too arrogant words, it will make you look weak. You directly attack our partners. Do you want to start a war with us pirates?" Members of Red Hair Pirates saw Bayi's actions. Their expressions changed one after another, and then they took out their respective combat weapons, glaring at Bayi who dared to hurt their companions suddenly. Seeing that the battle is about to start. Stop. The red-haired Shanks spoke up suddenly, and used the griffin to block in front of his companion. Enough. The red-haired Shanks looked at Rocks who was blown away, and said in a deep voice. This time it was Rocks who made a mistake. As a rookie who has just boarded the ship, facing the strong, it is very lucky that he did not lose his life after this lesson. Redhead Shanks sees it very clearly. The man in front of him really didn't take their plans into consideration. And with the strength of Rock's reward of 94 million. Dare to yell in front of one of the monsters at the top of the sea. If the other party really wants to kill, Rocks is not as simple as just being beaten. Shanks. But this fool dared to stand in front of us. The person who couldn't help but speak was wearing sunglasses, blue-gray hair, a white shirt, and a red dragon tattoo on his right neck. It was Bendik Snake, the navigator of the Red Hair Pirates. The difficulty of boarding as New World is almost the highest Red Hair Pirates. It can be said that Red Hair Pirates is the most short-sighted pirate group in New World 4 Emperors, and there is no one. Although the newcomer's temper may be hot and excited. But since they are on board, they will be recognized as a member of the Red Hair Pirates and have the potential to become an elite. Even if they made a mistake first, they can only allow the people from Red Hair Pirates to teach them a lesson. And Bayi did it in front of all of them. It's as if they didn't plan to take their Red Hair Pirates seriously. If it is usual, this can already be considered a serious act of provocation. The most important thing among pirates is the reputation and flag of their own pirate group. Once someone touches this red line, a war will break out without warning. One of the main reasons why pirates in New World break out in fights from time to time. You can insult me, even if you pour wine on my head, or even all kinds of abuse. However, you must not insult the pirates and the flag behind me. Otherwise, wait to pay the price of a big battle. And now, in the eyes of everyone in Red Hair Pirates, Bayi definitely touched that red line. And at this moment, Redhead Shanks feels the vaguely oppressive atmosphere of the day. Although he told his companion to stop, he didn't let his companion put away all kinds of weapons. Instead, he stared at Bayi like an eagle eye. What happened to my partner is indeed that he made a mistake in the first place, and the lesson he should receive is also what he asked for, but... The red-haired Shanks bowed his head in apology first, then his tone sank. Since we can't reach an agreement, we can only fight one battle according to the rules of the sea. However, since we are also in a hurry, I hope that the victory can be determined within 3 moves. Again, this is not a declaration of war, but Kaido, your life can die in the future, but if you die now, the balance maintained by New World will not end. Feel sorry. The red-haired Shanks' voice fell, and the nearby companion showed excitement on his face, and retreated subconsciously. Immediately, a Conqueror's red glow flashed in the red-haired Shanks' eyes, and Griffin was standing in front of him. Work hard. The red-haired Shanks suddenly flashed, and rushed straight to Bayi standing on the stone pillar. Haha, finally got to see Shanks shoot again. Go, Shanks. Let this guy know how awesome we Red Hair Pirates are. Seeing this, Usopp and others immediately showed excitement. Bendik Snake's face showed excitement when he saw Shanks make a shot. Looks like Shanks didn't intend to hold back the breath just now. That's right, this is the usual Shanks. How can the guy who accompanied the shot let him go easily? In the final analysis, in this world, strength determines everything. Bayi stands on the upturned earth stone pillar of Hado 99 5 swirling dragons of destruction, looking at the red-haired Shanks who came directly in front of him in an instant. The indifference in Bayi's eyes flashed with disdain. But, now that redhead Shanks has made his move, Reiatsu emerges again. Moment. Usopp and others who had been cheering for Shanks suddenly felt a terrifying Reiatsu coming. Subsequently, Bayi's Ryujin Jaka collided with red-haired Shanks' griffin. Boom! The nearby ground cracked crazily and diffused outwards, a strong wind pressure swept in all directions. That's, their weapons didn't touch at all. Am I dazzled? Rocks, who had just climbed up from the pile of rubble in the distance, witnessed the scene where Red Hair and Bayi fought in the distance. The pupils suddenly widened. Hey, that's the power of Conqueror's entanglement. Boy, it's a skill that can't be mastered by the top powerhouses, and you still have a lot to learn when you're on our ship in the future. A hand came over suddenly, and it was Usopp who spoke. But that guy is a terrifying monster. After turning this place into this, does he still have the strength to fight Shanks? Usopp saw that Shanks' first attack couldn't make an inch, and sighed inwardly. And at this moment, very strong. The red-haired Shanks kept on colliding with Bayi's first move, with a look of seriousness in his eyes. This was his first impression of the man in front of him. Unimaginable. The sea of the battlefield here has been evaporated, and has been destroyed by successive wars into a devastated and terrifying appearance. It seemed that the man's strength had not been affected in the slightest. After all, for speed to decide, head to summit war. When red-haired Shanks made a shot, he used at least half of his strength. But even so, this man still took it. It is conceivable that the strength of the man in front of him may be even more terrifying than he expected. But, now that he has done it, there are two more tricks. The red-haired Shanks held a griffin and let out a low snort. Armed colors and conquerors pour into the griffin. Suddenly the next move has arrived. This strike is Captain Roger's signature skill. God escape. Today's redhead Shanks has mastered the game. Under this move, it has the terrifying power to cut open the sky. I saw the red-haired Shanks suddenly preparing to release the soaring wave. However, full of flaws, Bayi's indifferent eyes flashed sharply. Point 0. The second trick is to fight. Bayi is faster than redhead Shanks. Red-haired Shanks' first move, Bayi will choose next. But Bayi wanted to see the strength of another 4 emperors. And the second trick, the opponent has already shown its strength. Bayi felt the physical strength in his body now. No need to waste too much time with each other. Caress. A split second, Bayi's figure is in the eyes of outsiders. The last second was still standing in place. But next second, Bayi had already appeared in front of Red Shanks, who was about to release the griffin in his hand. Thereafter, the red-haired Shanks paused in place, his pupils flickering with surprise. Puff! This is a line of blood appearing on the chest of red-haired Shanks in an instant. Then blood splattered immediately. Sent. Shanks. Below, Usopp and others, who were discussing who would win, were taken aback for a moment, and then their pupils widened suddenly. Bayi looked at this scene and had expected it. Yamamoto Genryūsai is not just the power of Reiatsu and Ryujin Jaka. Stamina aside and almost even Grandmaster All Hado aside. As the founder of Yuanliu, and the founder of Spiritual Arts Academy. Once defeated in the Soul Society and accepted Unohana Retsu, who claimed to master all schools and sword styles in the world, as a member of Gotei 13. That's all. It can be seen that in terms of swordsmanship alone, the swordsmanship of Yamamoto Genryūsai Shigekuni thousands of years ago has already reached its peak. Therefore, Bayi with Yamamoto Genryūsai Shigekuni template. In a sense, he is also the world's #1 swordsman. It's just because there are too many enemies every time. Compared with swordsmanship, Bayi prefers to use Ryujin Jaka's large-scale attacks. Now, you have one last resort. Shake Ryujin Jaka off the blood. Bayi's gaze moved, and he landed on the red-haired Shanks with a dignified face at this time. This guy, quote, redhead Shanks looked down at the blood-spattered wound on his body. A look of disbelief flashed across his extremely serious face. Just now he has already predicted the actions of the man in front of him through his knowledge. It can also be said to use the power of listening. As long as a person is still alive, the body can make special sounds, and through these sounds, the opponent's next move and position can be predicted. However, regarding the next move of the man in front of him is unpredictable, or, even if he clearly sees the man in front of him throwing a knife, but the result is unstoppable. Just like Bayi's evaluation of full of flaws. At the moment when the red-haired Shanks is about to use the 430 Griffin to release the slash wave, there is a short deadly gap. Ordinary people can't catch it at all. But now, the opponent of red-haired Shanks is not normal. And Bayi, who has the template of Yamamoto Genryūsai, who has reached the pinnacle of Kendo thousands of years ago in the Soul Society. Redhead Shanks had no doubts. If this is a simple competition of swordsmanship, the second move can almost decide the outcome. Hurt Shanks. You, how dare you hurt our captain? A competition is a competition, when we don't exist. At this time, Usopp and his team saw the red-haired Shanks injured, and suddenly reacted. Put their angry eyes on Bayi collectively. For a while, the atmosphere here was tense again. If it is an ordinary person, facing the pressure from the red hair pirates who are the four emperors, they will definitely be so scared that their legs and feet will go weak. But Bayi's response was that Reiatsu instantly pressed Usopp and others. Thereafter, Bayi looked around Usopp and his group below, causing Jesus Bu and others to change their expressions. You can choose to do it, and the choice is in your own hands from the very beginning. What? Usopp and others were taken aback. You guy, you are too arrogant. Are you trying to single out our entire red hair pirates? Bendik Snake also reacted. With two long knives in his strong arms, he couldn't help but stepped forward. The rest of the red hair pirates members saw this. Except for the calm Ben Beckman, everyone stepped forward. Watching the red hair pirates seem to be swarming. Bayi's face was very calm. Come on, from the moment you decide to intervene, it means that the war has already begun. Whether you approach rashly, or approach cautiously, or... Bayi looked at Ben Beckman who was cleaning the gun in the distance. It's not going to be close at all. It's going to be the same. I'm not talking about the future. Boom. Ryujin Jaka's blade gushed bright orange-red flames. A terrible pressure that distorted the surrounding atmospheric space soared into the sky. Bayi's indifferent eyes scanned the red hair pirates calmly. Because you will definitely end here, and the inescapable fate will be your inevitable end. You fool. Red hair pirates Kadri Lime Jones was furious when he heard this. What a joke. Alone, and after successive battles, he should have been seriously exhausted. Want to single out their entire red hair pirates? Waving the long stick in his hand, a golden light of electric shock emerged instantly. Seeing to be about to make a move. Stop. The red-haired Shanks yelled at Usopp and others, and forced his subordinates to resist the attack. Shanks, this fool is too arrogant. Lime Jones fixed his eyes on Bayi. The redhead shook his head. Since the three measures have been agreed, we must abide by the determination. As he spoke, the red-haired Shanks looked at Bayi. There is a last resort, right? He looked at Bayi with serious eyes. The red-haired Shanks understands the feelings of his companions. But the problem is, with the swordsmanship strength shown by the opponent just now. Shanks' heart sank. He clearly knew that Bayi might not be talking big. If that man is really in a state of total victory, might actually have power against their entire red hair pirates. Such a monster. Red-haired Shanks doesn't want to make things too hard. And the purpose of their trip is to prevent the Beast's pirates from going to the Summit War. If there is a war with people here, leaving aside the fact that the companion might really die, the redhead didn't have the confidence to take down the man in front of him either. In the fight between the strong, it is often possible to decide the outcome in an instant. It is because of this that the red-haired Shanks can feel more and more how powerful the man in front of him is. Therefore, to be able to end things here with 3 moves to determine the outcome. Looks like a perfect match for redhead Shanks. And just now he lost 1 move, the 3rd move may not be lost again. However, Bayi's actions made Shanks' face change. Rocks, who had just been beaten by Bayi and red hair pirates, sneaked behind Bayi at some point. Thereafter, Rocks showed ferocity in his eyes, and swung his long knife with all his strength to slash at Rhea's neck. roared. You arrogant fool. You can insult me, but you must not underestimate the red hair pirates. This is the price you pay for underestimating the red hair pirates. Go to hell. The eyes flickered sharply, and they fell directly. This moment, it seems that the war has already begun, and your subordinates have already made a choice. Bayi looked at the red-haired Ryujin Jaka rising with high-temperature flames. At the same time, the instant I saw rocks, the redhead's complexion changed instantly. Subconsciously opened his mouth to stop. However, the terrifying high-temperature flames have instantly engulfed the rocks in Vice Admiral. Boom! The moment Bayi raised his hand and swung Ryujin Jaka back. The hot orange-red flame is like a flame tornado soaring into the sky. Straight into the sky. Then, before the red hair pirates could stop them, the moment Rock's face touched the flames, it began to melt rapidly, revealing the terrifying white bones under the flesh, and then his entire body was directly engulfed by the terrifying flames. From beginning to end, wait for the red hair pirates to come back to their senses. This is the red hair pirates who just passed the test not long ago, offering a reward of 94 million Baileys. The hot-tempered and impulsive Rocks died directly at the hands of Midnight. You paid with your life for your actions. Not even a chance to scream. And do it all. Bayi looked down at the red hair pirates whose pupils shrank sharply. He can tolerate the arrogance of an ant once. It doesn't mean that a second time will be tolerated. And since you want to kill someone, you must be prepared to die. Bayi will not care about the other party's status as a member of the Four Emperors pirate group, and will sell face to the other party's captain. And at this moment, Rocks up. What the hell have you done? The one who dared to kill our red hair pirates right in front of us. Usopp and the others came back to their senses and saw that only the ashes of their companions were left in the tornado of flames that shot up to the sky behind Bayi. The battle that was supposed to start immediately ignited the nerves of everyone in the red hair pirates. It was red hair pirates combatant Lime Jones who gave the first rant. Wields a long staff that unleashes electric shock attacks. Jump up, attacking directly at Bayi. However, the four of Hado, Bayi raised the fingers of his left hand, his eyes were indifferent. Baile. Next second, swish, a blue-white lightning bolt moved faster than Lime Jones, and Lime Jones' pupils dilated as he jumped towards Bayi in an instant. What ability is this? Lime Jones felt the pressure in front, subconsciously forcibly changed the attack and used a long stick to resist in front of him. Result. The moment Lime Jones made contact with Hado 4, Shirai. The blue and white thunder pillar that was powerful enough to penetrate the sea directly sent Lime Jones flying. Lime Jones, seeing the situation of his companions, he roared angrily this time. It was Bendik Snake, the red hair pirate's navigator, who got the piss off the first time. As the shortest Four Emperors pirate group in New World, Bayi's initial attack on the rocks could be seen as a red line. So, now kill red hair pirates rookie Rocks up in front of them all. That is the place where they completely touched the most intolerable. After all, no matter how impulsive and hot-tempered Rocks is, his ultimate goal is to maintain the reputation of the red hair pirates. Even if they make mistakes, they cannot be killed directly, they can only be taught by their people. I saw Bendik Snake's arms exerting strength, and his veins were exposed. All of a sudden, these two slash waves combined into a cross slash in the flying midair, roaring and tearing space, and flew towards Bayi. At the same time, Usopp and the red hair pirates ship Dr. Deeg, who were on the side, all shot when they saw their companions. The two came back to their senses, looked at each other, and shot without hesitation. The battles on the Grand Line are often triggered at the touch of a button, and there is no room for them to react. Now that the battle has begun, then there is no room for them to think about it. Giving priority to helping your companions is the first choice. What's more, that guy actually killed their comrades in front of their red hair pirates' cadres. For a while, except for the red-haired Shanks and Ben Beckman, all kinds of attacks from the rest of the red hair pirates' cadres attacked Bayi immediately. To this, the indifference of Bayi's eyes remained unchanged. Stand on top of the stone pillar where the flaming tornado shoots into the sky. Bayi raised his hand. Will-o'-the-wisps. The cross slash wave with a size of more than 10 meters was crushed to pieces by Reiatsu. Snipe from Usopp. Naturally, it cannot escape Bayi's Reiatsu range perception. Bayi slashed across. The bullet-carrying armament Haki was split into two. Before it bounced to the sides, the broken bullet was melted into molten iron and fell to the ground. Thereafter, Shunpo. Before the Red Hair Pirates ship Dr. Dig could react. Bayi's figure has already appeared. Everyone is full of flaws. The eyes are indifferent. Ryujin Jaka rolls up the heat and crashes down. Quote exclamation mark quote. This idiot actually aimed at our ship doctor. Usopp's expression changed drastically, and he raised his gun to aim at Bayi again. The pupils of Dig, who stood still, suddenly dilated. Because only when you face Bayi directly, only then can I truly feel that terrifying sense of suffocation and oppression. Is this guy a monster? Dig's face changed drastically. Then, the remaining thoughts in my mind are, will die. As a ship's doctor, Dig is no stranger to the breath of death. Although he didn't know why Bayi in front of him knew that he was the ship doctor of Red Hair Pirates, he chose to deal with him immediately. However, once the opponent's attack falls, I will definitely die. The armed colors emerge from both arms. Dig gritted his teeth. He didn't allow himself to sit and wait for the ship. But just before the breath of death came, a red-haired figure suddenly galloped over. Push Dig aside. Not someone else. It's the captain of the Red Hair Pirates, red-haired Shanks. As the captain, I will never watch the crew die again. Red-haired Shanks' eyes darkened. The mighty Conqueror's Haki glowing red is unleashed. Griffin faced Bayi's attack in the next second. Next moment, boom, strong wind pressure suddenly swept across the battlefield hundreds of meters away. It can be seen with the naked eye that the ground, which was already a dry seabed, was deeply sunken layer by layer, rolling away continuously. Countless dust, smoke and gravel splashed. This terrifying strong collision, together with the islands that are extremely far away from here, vaguely felt the earth tremble hard. At the same time, boom, Sabaody bottom islands. Was that just now? Did Pluton Rayleigh help us hold off the tsunami? Did those legendary beings actually live in the Sabaody Islands? Countless people on the Sabaody Islands were shocked at this time. Originally they thought that the Sabaody Islands would be completely destroyed. Unexpectedly, just now, a robust old man with silver hair appeared. Although the other party only swung a sword, the tsunami hit and then disappeared quickly. But the appearance of that figure, even if it has been retired for decades, was quickly recognized by the residents of the Sabaody Islands. Pluton, Silver Rayleigh, the former deputy captain of the Roger Pirates. A man called One Piece Right Arm exists. That's not a legend. Hey, this is not a joke. What day is it today? Even those existences have appeared. The supernovas gather together. Uroge muttered with cold sweat all over his forehead, and subconsciously exchanged glances with other supernova pirates. The naked eye could see the shock in each other's eyes, and the cold sweat on their foreheads showed that even though they were supernovas, facing the tsunami just now, they almost felt the fear that they might really die here. And at this moment, Supernova and others have not yet breathed a sigh of relief. Suddenly, in the direction of the extremely distant sea area that originally penetrated the sky, there is a terrifying Conqueror's Haki. The faces of the supernovas couldn't help but change again. This time, which monster is it again? He suddenly looked up at the direction of the tsunami in the extreme distance. The gathered supernova pirates stared at that side. Then, when the sound of plop plop sounded, seeing that all the companions around him, as well as the residents on the Sabaody Islands, suddenly began to lose consciousness and collapse. Kid and the group couldn't help but widen their pupils and open their mouths. Is this a joke? Is this Conqueror's Haki? But such a powerful Conqueror's Haki. Area 13 of Sabaody Islands. Rayleigh, it looks like you're going to be exposed. Shaki looked at Rayleigh, who came back, and sighed. No way, the seeds of the new era, we can't just watch them all die here. Rayleigh picked up a glass of wine, turned his head and looked at Mariejois, the sacred place, above the red line, behind the Sabaody Islands. Rayleigh continued, and what the world government did this time is really too much. It almost didn't hesitate to let hundreds of thousands of people be buried with the Grand Line, but also to launch that kind of terrible attack. Even the incident back then was not that serious. Shaki was silent for a moment. The Rocks Pirates, looking at the direction of the sea area far away. So do you think Kaido and that monster from North Blue have a chance of surviving? Rayleigh shook his head. This kind of thing is not something that you and I can, The voice did not fall. A conqueror's breath slammed across the Sabaody bottom islands from a distance. Rayleigh's pupils froze slightly. Shaki looked up sharply, too. This conqueror's is. No need for Shaki to ask. Rayleigh has already taken the first step to the edge of the Sabaody archipelago with a western sword in hand, staring at the sea area and said, "It's Shanks, that guy has also come to the first half of the Grand Line." "What, Shanks?" Shaki looked shocked behind Rayleigh. "Nice. And that guy Shanks is fighting." Rayleigh nodded, a look of seriousness on his face. At the same time, Rayleigh still had a hint of horror in his heart. Redhead, Shanks coming to the Grand Line in the first half may be the focus in normal times. But now the real problem is the key. On that battlefield almost completely destroyed by the world government. Who the hell is Redhead, Shanks fighting? Who will it be? Kaido, the people of the world government? Or that, the man from West Blue? Rayleigh's pupils shone with shock. Could it be that even the world government has used that level of power? Can't defeat that monster. The other side. Boom. The battlefield where Bayi battles the red hair pirates is here. Shanks, be the first to react. Everyone in the red hair pirates immediately looked into the depths filled with dust and mist. The ship Dr. Deeg, who was pushed away, got up quickly, staring at the inside of the battlefield regardless of the dirt on his body. Followed by, as a large area of dust and mist began to gradually dissipate. As far as the eye can see, the scene that set off the center of the terrible collision made everyone in the red hair pirates tremble. I saw that the land behind Rex was completely sunken. There was an orange-red flame burning soaring into the sky. It seemed to dye the sky red. See it from their point of view. Redhead Shanks behind. The entire dry seabed is as terrifying as if it was split open by a knife. Yes, definitely will die. This scene came into view. Red hair pirate's ship Dr. Deeg's pupils suddenly dilated, and his body trembled involuntarily. Such a horrible attack. He can't imagine. If it just fell on him. Even if he uses all armament Haki, use his arms to resist. Best result. I am afraid that his arms will be cut off directly. Then the whole person will end up like Rocks, who was completely burned by the flames. That horrible monster. Deeg clenched his slightly trembling fists. Shanks, we're here to help you. And at this moment, Usopp and the others trembled physically and mentally, came back to their senses, and shouted hastily. However, just before Usopp et al. Were ready to act. This is another figure that stopped Usopp and the others. Mate Beckman, what are you doing? When Laji Lu and the others saw the person coming, their expressions changed slightly. Standing in front of them is none other than the right hand of Shanks, known as Shanks in the Red Hair Pirates, relying on a calm mind with clear thinking and extremely high combat effectiveness. In New World, it is rumored that he is compared to a powerful figure comparable to Red Hair. Ben Beckman looked calmly at the angry Red Hair Pirates' cadres. He shook his head and said in a deep voice, "Open your eyes wide and see. That man is a terrifying existence that is truly coveted in this world. Even if you are a member of the Four Emperors pirate group, go now." Beckman said slowly, "Just making trouble for that Shanks guy." After a brief silence, Usopp and the others calmed down as if they had been poured with cold water. Although I don't want to admit it, but that monstrous man, who has gone through several terrifying battles and even defeated Kaido, remains unimaginably powerful. In the first fight, it has already revealed that there is a gap in strength visible to the naked eye with some of them. Are we just watching like this? Bendik Snake couldn't help saying. Do not. Beckman shook his head, said, "This battle will end soon." What? End? Why is that? Hearing this, Bu and others were taken aback. Thoughts arise. Suddenly, the earth suddenly began to tremble violently. The faces of Usopp and others couldn't help changing, and they subconsciously stood firm. Then, swish, uhu, get ready to die for lousy. This is a hurricane suddenly blowing on the battlefield. Boom, followed by, Usopp and others saw that Kaido, who was crawling on the ground, stood up at some point. And Kaido, who was almost cut in half, has already healed more than half of his injuries. Subsequently, this is Kaido's figure reverting to the strongest human-beast state in the hurricane that rolled up countless earth and gravel. But it's different from just now. This time Kaido was exuding terrifying heat. Then create a huge fire dragon to wrap its body. Anything touched by the flame will melt instantly. Fire dragon torch. Next second, Kaido leaps into the air, soaring into the sky with a huge fire dragon. Then wrap the Conqueror's Haki centered around the dragon's head, boldly charging towards the back of Bayi below. Who do you think? Lousy. Go to hell. Kaido's eyes are fierce. It shows that today's Kaido is not the same Kaido who thinks he has been, standing in the world's invincible position, 2 years later. Next second, Shanglong Flame 8 trigrams. Kaido charged directly at Bayi. High-temperature flames swept across the sky. Usopp and the others never expected that Kaido would still have fighting power, and their expressions changed dramatically. They seemed to understand the meaning of Vice Captain Beckman, that the battle will be over soon. Today there is still Kaido who has regained his combat power. Plus their captain, Redhead, Shanks. Feel the terrifying power that Kaido incarnated as a fire dragon can wipe out any kingdom in an instant. They were shocked. 4 emperors. This time. No matter what, it is absolutely impossible for that man to win. Usopp and the others quickly retreated, afraid of being affected. However, now, before and after 4 emperors Redhead Shanks. Then there is the strongest attack with Kaido unleashing all his powers. Bayi seems to be in a desperate situation. There was no tension on Bayi's face. Or, under the cover of Bayi's Reiatsu. Kaido's little moves Bayi is clear from beginning to end. If Kaido directly chooses to escape without hesitation, maybe there is a real chance for red-haired Shanks to save Kaido. Kaido will leave one life behind. But now Kaido takes the initiative to deliver it to your door. Boom. The hot flames from Ryujin Jaka instantly pushed the red-haired Shanks back. Thereafter, facing Kaido who rushed madly from behind, Bayi raised his left hand to Kaido on the sky. Hado's 88. The dazzling light of lightning mixed with blue and white rose suddenly. In the next second, under Bayi's indifferent and calm gaze, and the pupils of the red-hair pirates all stared in disbelief. A beam of light with a diameter of more than 10 meters, made of unimaginable lightning, exploded from Bayi's palm in an instant. Like a pillar of light tearing apart the sky. Suddenly towards. Boom at Kaido who unleashes the strongest attack. Flying dragon striking thieves shocking thunder cannon. Hum. Swish. The sky is torn. Next second, crazy Kaido and Bayi release Hado no. 88 flying dragon striking thieves and shocking thunder cannon. In a split second, the sky, where only the dark clouds in the center were pierced, was suddenly illuminated like daylight. Everyone in the Red Hair Pirates couldn't open their eyes to Qianzhou due to the dazzling light. Immediately afterwards, an unimaginable terrorist explosion appeared in midair. The terrifying impact turned into aftermath, instantly blowing away the entire dilapidated melted battlefield. It is as terrifying as the slash released by the Great Swordsman. After forcing everyone in the Red Hair Pirates to change face, Beckman had to fight against the blown ground. Even the Redhead subconsciously uses Griffin to resist this terrifying shock. But even so, the terrifying aftermath almost invaded the entire battlefield. Waiting for the people of the Red Hair Pirates to open their eyes, their hearts are terrified. Because you can see it. The entire land of the dry seabed that was originally dilapidated has become bare. All of them have almost completely disappeared. Red Firth. Navigator Bendik Snake of the Red Hair Pirates looked back abruptly. The pirate ship in the distance is still there. However, even though it was located in the sea far away, the Red Force was blown hundreds of meters away. Bendik Snake was horrified. Is this real? It's thousands of meters away from here, isn't it? The horrible collision just now. Bendik Snake quickly looked at the battlefield. Suddenly, they found that the pupils of Usopp and others were dilated, and cold sweat was falling from their foreheads. What happened? Bendik Snake trembled in his heart, and subconsciously followed his companion's gaze. Then, Bendik Snake saw the terrifying scene of why Usopp and others could change their minds. Caught the eye. That's Kaido's dead body. Falling from the sky. Die. The Red Hair Pirates watched as they fell from the sky. With a plop, it landed on the charred black body of Kaido not far away on the now bare battlefield. Everyone in Red Hair Pirates looked at the scene in front of them. At this moment, there was a feeling of unreal After all, that's Kaido, no ordinary big pirate at all. It is located at the top of countless pirates in the New World, and is crowned as the Emperor of the Sea by Guan Yu, a monster among monsters with the title of Four Emperors. Along with their red hair pirates captain, Red Hair, Shanks, one of the eponymous Four Emperors, pirates. And there are rumors all over the world today, now known as Whitebeard's era. The next new era of maritime supremacy. It must be the captain of the 100 Beasts pirate group, 100 Beasts, Kaido in Four Emperors. The strongest creature in the sea, land and air. After the Whitebeard era, the strongest existence that no one can match in the entire ocean. In the Red Hair Pirates camp, also one of the Four Emperors. Although everyone in Red Hair Pirates can usually think that Kaido is a brainless reckless fool, who will play around all over the world from time to time, chasing the so-called suicide, stupid game. But I have to agree with Kaido's inhuman and terrifying power. Definitely one of the most powerful men standing on the sea and even in the whole world. However, that's why such a powerful monster exists. It's really dead. 900 died on the battlefield in the first half of the Grand Line they witnessed. Witnessing Kaido's dead body that was smashed into a big hole not far away. Red Hair Pirates Usopp and others were all shocked. Then, when everyone in the Red Hair Pirates looked at the old man with a strong body and scars. This moment, Usopp's group couldn't control their hearts and collectively shuddered. Cold sweat emerged from their foreheads, slid down their faces, and dripped onto the bare battlefield. That terrifying monster, to face the pressure of two Four Emperors at the same time. Kill Kaido here, even though Kaido was badly injured, even dying before their Red Hair Pirates arrived. However, under Kaido's crazy and sudden attack just now, Usopp and others present thought that none of the Red Hair Pirates' cadres could take over. However, the opponent is not only taking over, even kill Kaido abruptly. Is that level of terrifying power really a level that humans can possess? The scalps of Usopp's group were about to explode. Now, recall that Ben Beckman stopped them and talked them out of trouble for Shanks. Usopp and others felt lucky in their hearts. That kind of battle is not at the human level at all. Usopp and others can hardly imagine how Shanks will take care of them again. If they chose to join the battle just now, I'm afraid I don't have the good luck that the ship's Dr. Deeg just had. Yes, Shanks. The faces of Usopp and others changed suddenly. He hurriedly looked in the direction of the red-haired Shanks. Within sight, just now the red-haired Shanks was forced to retreat nearly 100 meters away. Although he was a little embarrassed at this time, compared to Kaido, he turned into a corpse. Usopp and the others breathed a sigh of relief. Obviously, compared to the shock brought by Kaido's death. Confirmation right now. Shanks' situation is the most important thing in the eyes of the Red Hair Pirates members. And at this moment, call, red-haired, Shanks raised his head, his eyes shone with shock, panting slightly, red-haired, Shanks felt the almost melting temperature from the Conqueror's griffin wrapped around his hands. Only he knew just now, just how terrifying was the temperature attached to Bayi's slash that forced him back. Shanks first glanced at Kaido's lifeless body. His face was ugly. This idiot, given the chance to leave here, Kaido chose to attack. And it can only be said that Kaido has brought it on himself for this kind of fate. The hope of losing the reputation of living and betting on the latter to kill the man. Kaido himself chose the latter. However, the red-haired Shanks faintly agrees with Kaido's approach at this time. Because if he is standing in Kaido's perspective, undeniable, looking at the powerful man in the distance who is far more terrifying than the rumors. Redhead, Shanks' first immediate feeling today is a huge CDFH threat. It is really too powerful. That kind of power is the overwhelming power that can only be truly felt after fighting against each other. With him alone, the red-haired Shanks now clearly realizes that he may not be able to defeat the opponent at all. And unimaginable, if the opponent has not experienced the battles here, the physical strength and state are not at their peak. What a formidable opponent. If he were Kaido, I'm afraid he couldn't help but take advantage of that man's weakest time to make a move. However, he's not Kaido after all. And now things here have completely exceeded his expectations. With Kaido dead, the balance of New World is bound to be broken. Secondly, His new crew recruits in New World also died. Died under Bayi's Ryujin Jaka. Not even a dead body is eligible. Although the red-haired Shanks really wanted to help Rocks get revenge. It's about the name and reputation of the red-hair pirates. However, right now, there are more important things waiting for him. The original purpose of the red-hair pirates coming to the first half of the Grand Line Summit War, as well as, although the red-haired Shanks has a chance to bet that man's physical strength is running out now. If Beckman, who is close to his strength, joins the fight, the balance of victory may tilt in their favor. But that ended. Think of that man unleashing what appears to be the power of multiple devil fruit abilities. The red-haired Shanks looked grave. The crew members under him will definitely suffer heavy casualties. Therefore, red-haired Shanks dare not gamble. And he is not willing to gamble at such a price. Holding the griffin who couldn't retract the scabbard for the time being. The red-haired Shanks looked at Bayi. Subsequently, redhead Shanks throws griffin underfoot. He glanced at Usopp and other companions who had followed him for decades. The red-haired Shanks faced Bayi amid the sudden change in the faces of the red-hair pirates. Said, Kaido is dead, and my people have paid the price for his arrogance. This battle, let's end here. The voice fell. Sent. Shanks. Shanks. The pupils of the red-hair pirates suddenly widened. And this scene, if placed outside, it is bound to shock the whole world. Because the red-hair pirates, one of the 4 emperors' pirates. Under the assembly of all cadres, the leader of the 4 emperors, red hair, Shanks faced an elderly man who had fought several times in a row, and even offered to end the battle. Rather than saying that this is actively ending the battle, it would be better to say that the 4 emperors' red-hair pirates actually want to abandon their reputation, and even fame. Bow your head. And, the opponents of the red-hair pirates are not other pirates who are also in the 4 emperors' camp. Or face the entire marine government, or the behemoth world government. But, the opponent is only a man alone. And, standing on the bare, bald battlefield today. Ryujin Jaka in Bayi's hand did not throw the saber, griffin, in his hand to the ground because of the red-haired Shanks. And then a speech that wanted to end the conflict between him and the red-hair pirates and put it away. Correspondingly, it was the disdain that appeared in Bayi's indifferent eyes. He first burned Kaido's body with a knife to prevent the world government from obtaining more blood factors from Kaido to make various weapons. Then, Bayi turned around and faced the red-haired Shanks. In your opinion, rules are also for those who cannot live without them. He looked at the red-haired Shanks whose expression changed upon hearing this. The red-haired Shanks was eager to end this conflict, and Bayi knew it all too well. It's nothing more than that the red-hair pirates have other goals for the first half of the Grand Line right now. Seeing that he couldn't win with his strength, he wanted to leave directly. But, redhead Shanks says it's over when it's over. Who decides this? From the beginning, under Bayi's feet is the battlefield of the Operation Demon Slaying, originally launched by the world government. Ever since he beheaded Kong, the commander-in-chief of the world government's army, Kaido belongs to Shifong, who secretly witnessed the power possessed by Bayi, and then took the lead in killing him. Therefore, Bayi wants Kaido's life. There are traces to follow. And now the red-hair pirates in front of everyone appeared to prevent Bayi from beheading Kaido. The reason at the beginning turned out to be, killing Kaido will break the balance of New World. Even, Bayi put aside the red-haired Shanks's right to ask him for this face. Today, the world clearly maintains the balance of the times, the combination of the 3 major forces of Marine, Shichibukai, and 4 emperors. Is it something that really should exist? Has anyone ever questioned it? As a time traveler, in Bayi's eyes, this is the so-called balance of the 3 major forces. It's just the extreme hypocrisy of the world government in order to maintain the absolute ruling power in its hands. It's just the rules, shackles deliberately created for this sea. Not so much to maintain the balance of power between the Grand Line and the New World. Rather, it is the world government that passes power behind the scenes. Create rules where no rules are needed. Where rules are needed, they guarantee chaos, while never being able to threaten the power in the hands of the world government. Let the world mistakenly think that if you leave the rules formulated by the world government, there will be an illusion of extremely serious consequences. It can be seen from this. What kind of existence are the so-called three major forces that maintain the balance of the current era on the surface? The real purpose from the beginning. It has nothing to do with ordinary people living in the pirate world. Bayi has lived as a marine in North Blue for nearly 40 years. He saw very clearly, in the eyes of ordinary people, those things are far less important than eating a full meal, reuniting with family members, and then avoiding a pirate attack. And look at the so-called balance of the era that red-haired Shanks just said. Just look at the kingdom of Genryūsai, occupied by Doflamingo. Today's #1 weapon supplier in the underground dark world is continuously delivering various weapons to various kingdoms and pirate forces. Its business also includes intelligence, slavery, human trafficking and other illegal activities. Or Alabasta, which was almost occupied by Crocodile, a fellow, 7 warlords of the sea, faction in the past. Although compared to the former kingdom of Genryūsai, Alabasta was not actually captured by pirates in name. However, there is no such thing as 500,000 troops, which is said to be the strongest in the first half of the Grand Line. As a result, civil strife has continued throughout the year, and even the most basic public water problem cannot be solved. One can imagine, behind the balance of the three major forces has brought countless chaos to all parts of the world, and further intensified the conflicts on the sea. Then, the world government just needs to stay firmly behind the marine government. Without any effort, you can enjoy the rights that will never be threatened in your hands. That's all. Boom. The high-temperature flames soaring into the sky are accompanied by a large number of Reiatsu wrapping the blade of Ryujin Jaka. Followed, Bayi swung Ryujin Jaka to the side. Suddenly, the bare battlefield ground of more than 100 kilometers was suddenly melted by this pouring bright orange-red flame. The sky was dyed red. This guy. At this moment, Usopp and his team, who were shocked by the choice of Shanks, felt the heat of the flames that soared into the sky. The complexion can't help but collectively change. This man still has such terrifying power. Is this monster really human? And, are you kidding me? Confront a fellow rookie rock star, man who killed their red-hair pirates. The captain of their red-hair pirates, the red-haired Shanks, offered to put aside the 4 emperors' fame and even fame in order to end this conflict. However, is this man not going to bother at all? Whether you care about the so-called balance, or the unnecessary rules deliberately created by the world government. Quote, at this time, Bayi's voice was transmitted to the ears of Usopp and others, and he said slowly, these extremely hypocritical things will have the same fate as the world government, and the end of being buried together is already doomed. At the same time, anyone who dares or becomes an obstacle, I will kill none of them. Chapter 71. Boom. The ground near the entire battlefield could not stop shaking and cracking. Red-haired Shanks felt the terrifying high temperature and wind pressure released by Bayi Reiatsu in front of him, and stood behind the saber, griffin stuck in the ground. The red-haired Shanks subconsciously raised his right arm under the long black cloak to resist. Thereafter, he raised his head, opened his eyes and watched Ryujin Jaka fall from the man's hand. The land of hundreds of kilometers on the side was instantly melted by it, just like lava braving the high temperature of releasing heat. The red-haired Shanks looked extremely ugly at the moment. Maybe, this time he came to the half before the Grand Line to end the Summit War. At first, go get involved in this fight. He made the worst choice ever. At the same time, New World, the mobile base camp of the World Economic News Agency has completed the transfer in the second half of the Grand Line known as the New World. Now, inside the World Economic News Service, a bloated figure with feathers on his head and a black cloak that looks like an enlarged version of an albatross is staring at a red contact phone bug in his hand. Forgive me, such a big news can't be kept secret. 1 inch. After Morgans finished speaking, the red phone bug in Morgan's hands, belonging to the CPO organization, immediately made a roaring expression, roaring. Morgans, you used to take so many benefits from the world government, but now you want to offend the world government. The end of your must be unbearable for you. Pat. Morgans didn't finish listening, so he hung up the phone directly, and looked at the uninhabited deserted island outside the mobile base camp. There was a flash of ambition in Morgan's eyes. The consequences of the world government are indeed unbearable for ordinary people. But in the eyes of a businessman, who really finds business opportunities and is good at taking advantage of them. As long as the number of interests is large enough, it doesn't matter at all whether you should choose not to offend the government. After all, once the news starts to be released, even the behemoth of the world government should be in a state of distress, right? At the same time, all eyes of the whole world, all without a doubt, focus on that scary monster man from North Blue. Think here. Morgans tossed the bug into the corner. Afterwards, Morgans raised a wing and ordered to his subordinates who were urgently copying newspapers in the base camp. Little ones, destroy all the newspapers that were going to be published before the original world government. Go all out for new content. And keep my staff scattered all over the world. Now the opportunity of the new era has come. Hurry up. Wahaha. In this ever-changing world, the truth is the most interesting. Let the whole world liven up. Otherwise, if the big news is not public, it can't be called big news. With Morgan's order, this headquarters of World Economic News, located somewhere in New World, is not long. All over the world, countless albatrosses with backpacks full of news suddenly appeared and began to fly to New World, Grand Line, and even all over the world. For a while, the whole world set off a stormy sea. The unprecedented failure of the world government. Marine Marshal Kong died in air battle. The next new era of taboo moments at sea is coming. Have to say, World Economic News is extremely handy in how to create marketing headlines. From the fact that Morgans was able to turn the Straw Hat crew, which was defeated in the Four Emperors' Ants territory, into the birth of the Fifth Sea Emperor. The marketing ability of World Economic News can be seen as Madara. Plus a catchy headline, relying on the huge subscription groups accumulated all over the world by the World Economic News in the past. Morgans has been predictable. How unimaginably huge benefits can this big news bring to his World Economic News newspaper? At the same time, newspapers all over the world began to stir up a terrible storm with the Morgans publishing. The conflict between Bayi and the Red Hair Pirates here has also ushered in a temporary end. The reason why is temporarily. That's because the Red Hair Pirates didn't gamble on the premise of consuming huge casualties, and it was possible to win the choice to fight Bayi. Instead, let Usopp and a group of cadres go back to the Red Fourth. Then, this is the red-haired Shanks holding a saber. Griffin and Ben Beckman left behind. But it is after the break. It would be better to say that it depends on the strength of the two of them. They are the two people who are most likely to leave in this battlefield right now. 2 Four Emperors at their peak. Have to say, one-on-one. It is impossible for any 4 Emperors in this world to be Bayi's opponent. 2 Four Emperors. The ending will be much the same. But due to successive wars, if the two want to leave wholeheartedly. But it is not difficult to do. After all, the Reiatsu possessed by Shinigami is not the same as physical strength being unlimited. But even so, Bayev's redhead Shanks to Ben Beckman's results. The advantage it occupies is still absolutely overwhelming. The two said it was a retreat, but it was not their defeat. Now, the dark clouds have dispersed, and the sun shines on the battlefield from the sky. Swing the knife with your right hand, and throw off the flames wrapped around Ryujin Jaka's knife. Bayi will return to normal. It is a Ryujin Jaka that looks so ordinary that it can no longer be ordinary, and calmly retracts the scabbard. Looking around, this area is spreading outward like an abyss layer by layer, causing a terrifying and anxious battlefield with hundreds of thousands of meters of depressions. The matter here is settled. Basking in the sun. Bayi's calm eyes move to the direction of the Sabaody Islands. No, to be precise, it is the world government behind the Sabaody Islands controlled by the Celestial Dragons. Time to get on with business. Bayi was not interested in the Summit War matter. There is no plan to intervene. And the red-haired pirate had better luck this time. If it weren't for Bayi's subversion of the world government right now. No plan to waste any more time with the red hair pirates. Redhead Shanks and Ben Beckman have no chance of leaving. And the world government originally planned to take advantage of the Summit War to attract the attention of the whole world. Then organize the magic slaughter operation to deter the entire Grand Line with Bayi's head, so as to start the cleaning operation on the first half of the Grand Line. On the contrary, the outbreak of Summit War is now Bayi's opportunity. A lackey government under the world government has no chance to become a chance for Bayi to hinder. In the current situation, if you want to have obstacles, again, it must be the world government who will come forward in person. I started to step out towards the direction of the Sabaody Islands, and suddenly a gust of wind blew in my face. Bayi stopped in his tracks. It was found that the large black shirt on the upper body was almost destroyed. It can be clearly seen that the upper body is neatly arranged in pieces at this moment, hiding the powerful muscles. Bayi stayed for a moment, then shook his head. Never mind, it has basically been destroyed here. And the next war may not be spared even if they change their clothes again. It might as well be like this. Also, the Sabaody Islands is a place where the celestial dragons rule. Looking at the sea island that was evaporated and dropped several sea levels due to the influence of Ryujin Jakashikai, temperature in the extreme distance. Bayi didn't need to worry about things like clothes. As soon as he arrives, Bayi believes that someone will prepare for him. He is more than willing to help reason the forces of the celestial dragons in the Sabaody archipelago. At the same time, this time, they will fight successively with the strongest of the One Piece world. Although it was the first time Bayi exhausted his physical strength the most. Probably still close to a quarter. However, while his physical strength has recovered rapidly, Bayi's beheading of Kong, Kaido and others is also a huge gain. The template progress that Bayi has now. Host, Bayi. Current template, Yamamoto Genryūsai. Zanpakuto, Ryujin Jaka, unlocked. Shinigami ability, Kaido, unlocked. Physical technique, 1 bone, unlocked. Current template unlocking progress, 68.5. The next phase of Zanpakuto's form changes to unlock progress reaching 70. Compared to the previous template progress after fighting Akainu and Kizaru. This time the battle, Bayi's template can be said to have ushered in a small explosion. It is more than 2 or 3 times more than the unlocking progress contributed by Akainu. This shows that the unlocking progress of the template is related to fighting or killing opponents. In addition, Zanpakuto's form changed again. Bayi looked at Ryujin Jaka in his hand. The first image that popped up in my mind. With Ryujin Jaka's current power. If the shape changes again, then, there is only one, Bankai, remnant sword. Even Bayi couldn't help being surprised. If the common unlock template progress increases, the strength brought as Reiatsu and swordsmanship rise again. So Ryujin Jaka appears to change form again. There will be a real, qualitative, change. It can be said, even Bayi, I didn't expect that the template of Yamamoto Genryūsai only needs to reach 70 unlocking progress. Then you can unlock Zanpakuto's second stage of liberation, which is Zanpakuto's final form of Bankai, after Zanpakuto's first stage of liberation, Shikai. In Bayi's understanding, even looking at the entire Soul Society in Shinigami. Among the thousands of Shinigami in every other era, there are only a handful of Shendu who can perform Bankai's death. This is because Bankai can liberate and use Zanpakuto's ability more thoroughly and comprehensively, which contains far more difficulty than ordinary people can. Therefore, once a Bankai is achieved, that Shinigami's name will forever be enshrined in the Soul Society annals. One can imagine, Ryujin Jaka is the strongest of the Yan family and is known as the oldest and strongest Zanpakuto. The unlocking of Bankai follows Bayi's understanding. Should be at least 90, maybe even higher. But Bayi looked at Ryujin Jaka. Suddenly understand, maybe that's why Yamamoto Genryūsai Shigekuni is hailed as the strongest Shinigami ever by Soul Society. Other Shinigami may not be able to touch the threshold of Bankai throughout their lives. Even Shikai is the ultimate goal many Shinigami pursue throughout their lives. But for Yamamoto Genryūsai, Yamamoto Yuanlianagi Seishish Gujong's own strength is too strong, and it is far behind other Shinigami. With Shikai, it's even comparable to other Shinigami's Bankai. Therefore, it is precisely because of too strong personal strength that the template only needs to reach 70 progress. Yamamoto Genryūsai has already stood on a mountain that countless Shinigami in the Soul Society cannot touch in their lifetime. A breeze to master into Zanpakuto's second stage of liberation, Zanpakuto's final, strongest form. Bankai, the strongest Shinigami in the millennium. As the template is unlocked, day and night you can clearly feel how powerful the template you have. And at this moment, feeling the feeling of increasing strength as physical strength recovers again. And vaguely touched Ryujin Jaka's hidden deeper power. If the world government at this moment knows whether it is the Admiral Combat Force obstacle sent by their lackey marine government, or it could be the Operation Demon Slaughter, carefully planned by the Generalissimo of the world government's army, Kong. All these obstacles, they are just speeding up the attack on the world government and celestial dragons, leading to their complete demise. Don't know what to think. And at this moment, Bayi could already foresee the result in advance. Only Mariejois, the sacred place, destined to be reduced to ruins. At the same time, as the albatross filled with big news that is destined to set off a terrorist shock in the whole world began to fly to all parts of the world. Surprisingly, the earliest message I received was New World, Wanokuni, Ghost Island, hiss, that bloody with red hair. If it wasn't for the absence of Big Brother Kaido, how could that guy overturn our subordinate's ship? An angry voice mixed with gasps from time to time. Currently in the base camp of the 100 Beasts pirate group on Onijima. At this moment, the three disasters and his party were covered in bandages. Jin's injuries were the least serious, followed by Quinn and Jack. But when Jack the Dro's words just fell, Plague, Quinn, half of his body wrapped in bandages, stood up suddenly, then slapped Jack hard on the head, and cursed. It's not you idiot, that guy is a redhead. Redhead Shanks. 4 emperors as famous as Captain Kaido. It's not an ordinary opponent. You actually led the giver subordinates to lean on the ship. It directly caused the loss of 1/5 of the thousands of people we gathered at the beginning of the battle. You are very lucky if you can get back alive now. Idiot. Yes, I was wrong, Brother Quinn. After being slapped on the head by Quinn, Jack the Dro, like a dumpling wrapped in bandages, decisively confessed. In the final analysis, the huge force they assembled to seize the Whitebeard's territory failed. Although the main reason is that the Red Hair Pirates, who are also part of the 4 emperors, made a sudden move. But if it weren't for his anger, it wouldn't have caused the loss of more than half of the original strength of nearly 3,000 people. And if he didn't have Murloc blood, those monsters of Red Hair Pirates didn't really exert their full strength, Jack felt that maybe he was really going to die before. Well, although this defeat was unexpected, it is enough for you to weigh your own strength. Next time, when Mr. Kaido comes back, the Red Hair Pirates will not be so lucky. Jin interrupted the two of them with a deep voice. Quinn and Jack agreed after hearing the words. But just as everyone was preparing to recuperate, it was predicted that it would be difficult to launch a large-scale attack in the next week. Suddenly, a newspaper fell from the sky on Ghost Island. When Jin saw the albatross leaving quickly, the corners of his mouth under the mask were disdainful. Coward. The various forces in the world sometimes really love and hate these albatrosses. Love that most of the news is true and some of the information is very useful. Hate these albatrosses are like eyeliner all over the world. Morgans used this to sell information of various forces in the underground dark world more than once or twice, causing many forces to lose one after another. The reason why their beasts pirates were quickly exposed as the shadow of world economic news. Although you can simply do one thing, choose to kill all those albatrosses. But once that is done, Morgans would find out instantly as if by telepathy, and never sell his papers to the man who killed the albatross. At the same time, all the information, location, and whole cards of that person will be directly disclosed. There are not a few black and white people who were cheated to death by this hand. Although the 100 Beasts pirate group is not afraid of these things at all, it is undeniable that killing those timid albatrosses is a troublesome choice. Jin held the newspaper in his hand. Then, Jin glanced casually, wondering if the summit war was over. Result. Ember's face under the mask suddenly changed. What the hell is it? Brother Jin, what happened? Could it be that the Whitebeard pirates went to naval headquarters to seek their own death, and there is already a result? Drought, Jack and Plague couldn't help but face Jin. Seeing the eyes of the two people looking over, Jin's voice sank first, and then he said in the midst of the change of expression between the two. It's the world government who made a move in the first half of the Grand Line. World government. Quinn's expression changed. That behemoth went off in person, how could there be no news? Ember analyzed. This is the cleverness of the world government, taking advantage of the summit war to attract all the attention of the world, and by the time the world reacts, the war is already over. World government. Could it be against the Whitebeard pirates? Jack the Drow subconsciously looked at Jin. No, it's the monster who was very interested in Mr. Kaido earlier. Jin continued to read the news, his face becoming more and more serious. Are you sure the news on the news is not a joke? Alone, the world government has dispatched such an exaggerated force, it is difficult to win. Even Kong, the generalissimo of the world government army, died at the hands of that man. Thus, Jin suddenly thought of Kaido's purpose for going to the first half of the Grand Line. His complexion couldn't help but change. And this time, a very flustered giver ran to the base camp of Ghost Island, bringing news that changed the face of the three disasters drastically. Just now, the life cards of Guy and Captain Kaido ran out. What? Quinn and Jack were taken aback for a moment. Life card burned out. Doesn't it mean that the boss of Kaido has? When the two came back to their senses, their hearts trembled suddenly, and their first reaction was that they couldn't believe it at all. After all, what are you kidding? The boss of their 100 beasts, pirates. But the strongest creature in the sea, land and air, the captain of the beasts pirates, one of the 4 emperors pirates who rule the new world. Not long. This is Jin's transformation into a pteranodon, soaring into the sky on Ghost Island. Dressrosa. D. Dover. The world government has failed. Above the sunflower field, the voice of Torre Pol, a senior cadre of the Don Quixote family, trembled faintly. Newspaper from hand. It can be seen that he has received the latest news from the World Economic News. However, the news in the newspaper is not what the young master Doflamingo predicted. If the world government came forward in person, that behemoth would almost clean the entire first half of the Grand Line. The results are, the troops dispatched by the world government themselves were defeated. It seems that the previous 2 marine admirals were unable to win. Get beat by a lone monster. Even the generalissimo of the whole army died in battle. Looking at those articles made people sweat, and it was hard to believe that it was real news. Torrebel subconsciously looked at Doflamingo. Doflamingo's face was almost completely black at the moment. Which link went wrong? Those high-ranking guys from the world government actually failed. Doflamingo's face was extremely ugly. As a pirate of the Celestial Dragon's bloodline, Doflamingo knows better than any other force in the sea the huge heritage that the world government has accumulated over the centuries. It can be said, when he guessed that the world government was going to dispatch himself. The man named Bayi was dead to Doflamingo. Just like the Rocks pirate group back then, all traces will be completely erased by the world government. He doesn't want to participate in the summit war. In order not to be affected. The first half of the current Grand Line. Whitebeard pirates, 4 emperors Kaido, naval headquarters, world government, plus that monster whose strength is as unfathomable as the abyss. Doflamingo has no doubts that the first half of the Grand Line could be completely ruined. However, although the world government shot as he guessed, but the result that appeared was the most undesirable, and also the most unlikely, result. The people of the world government were actually defeated. The veins on Doflamingo's forehead are exposed. Suddenly, I glanced at the so-called New Era in the newspaper published by the World Economic News. Doflamingo's face suddenly sank. The guy has started to think. No, considering that monstrous man who simply surpassed human cognition. Perhaps a new era is indeed upon us. This failure of the world government. Doflamingo was unquestionably predictable. The world government stands behind the marine government with all the prestige built up over the centuries. From the moment Morgans raved about these newspaper releases, it will be like the previous marine government. Not only did he not succeed in eradicating that sinner. On the contrary, all the images that the world government has established to the outside world for hundreds of years will become a stepping stone for the reputation of the sinner in the outside world. In addition, looking at the hand, the least likely is the result that world government's shot should have. Doflamingo suddenly thought of Kaido. If the monster whose strength is as deep as the abyss knows that it is their Don Quixote family that provided Kaido with accurate information. Cold sweat dripped subconsciously from Doflamingo's forehead and dripped on the ground. That alone would definitely rival any of the 4 Emperor's monsters in New World. Even the level of threat may exceed that of the former Sea Overlord, Rock's, pirate group. He doesn't want to face it. The other side, the Sabaody Bottom Archipelago, made up of Yarchman mangrove clusters, is here. As the Albatross brings big news to the entire Grand Line, the next day it will spread to the Calm Belt, the world, and every corner of the world. At this moment, half a day has passed by. The supernovas on the islands of Sabaody's Bottom Archipelago have gradually calmed down. This is just one day. They have experienced and seen too many terrible monsters. Summit War. 4 Emperors Kaido. Boiling sea of evaporation. A tsunami capable of destroying everything. The legendary, One Piece, Roger's right hand, Pluton, Rayleigh. And the Conqueror's Haki, so terrifying that it affected the Sabaody archipelago. It can be said, at this moment, most of the pirates on the Sabaody Islands have already given up. Before they have seen the real mountain, they still have full ambitions. But today, the pirates on the entire Sabaody Islands have been completely beaten to pieces. Whether it is a supernova with a reward of over 100 million, or some pirates who have tried to challenge New World several times and failed to re-enter. This is basically the case. Facing the terrifying aftermath that has gone beyond the scope of human cognition. They didn't hesitate, if they were the ones facing those monsters. Will die. This is the collective default of the pirates of the Sabaody Bottom Islands. I couldn't stop trembling in fear in my heart. Ah, it looks like it's finally over there. New World, it's an unimaginably dangerous place. Area 12 of Sabaody Islands. The gathered supernova Yoroge touched the back of his head, recalling the almost suffocating trembling just now, and couldn't help sighing. Originally known as a supernova, he thought that his strength was already very good. Even if you go to New World, there are not many pirates who can match yourself. Can now, after feeling the breath of monsters from the true apex of the New World. The confidence Yoroge honed in Sky Island and the first half of the Grand Line has all but faded away. I can only personally feel the terrifying aura coming from a very far away. In order to know clearly, they and the top monsters who fought in the extremely distant sea area before. How desperate the strength gap has reached, compared to those pirates whose confidence in their strength has completely collapsed. Yoroge thinks his willpower is already very strong. You can recall what you saw and heard just now. Despair. Yes, only despair. I can't think of any possibility of facing those monsters to win. And that, it is the monster, known as the Emperor of the Sea standing on this Grand Line. Definitely, living up to the name. Kid, take a look. Sudden, gathering together, and now they are ready to leave the supernova in the first half of the Grand Line. This is the face of the Kid Pirates Battle Island Kira's hold mask. Okay, what happened again? Yoroge looked puzzled. Hawkins heard the words, but unhurriedly took out a stack of tarot cards and took them. Then Hawkins showed a look of incomparable surprise on his face. Battle, defeat rate, 100%. If you shoot at it, it will be everyone. Magician, Hawkins looked serious. Glancing at Kid and the others, they looked towards the sea. Afterwards, Hawkins' heart sank. As far as the eye can see. That's a man, walking on the sea to the Sabaody Islands. Although the man was old and his upper body was covered with scars from past battles, he was alone. However, there is no need for anyone to doubt the terrifying power hidden under that strong body. Then, when Hawkins recognized the man's identity, immediately, cold sweat appeared on Hawkins' back. No, it can't be wrong. Hawkins' lips moved slightly. Looking at the direction behind Bayi, it was the extremely distant battlefield where the extremely terrifying battle wave was heard earlier. The tarot card in Hawkins' hand fell directly on the spot. Those previous movements, a few days of shaking news combined with the first half of the Grand Line. Even if he can't divination who is fighting, he should have guessed it earlier. Someone who can do those things in the first half of the Grand Line. Only that terrible monster that caused the Marine government to lose one after another. Hey, this is really not a joke. The only Sky Islander in the supernova, the monk, Yoroge, subconsciously put on a fighting stance and opened his mouth wide. Looking at the figure of a man walking towards the Sabaody Islands in the distance, lying flat on the sea. The karma, fruit ability of strange monk, Yoroge has already been a crazy warning. Danger. Very dangerous. That man is very bad, he is simply the most dangerous and terrifying existence he has ever seen in his life. That guy, is that, talking about those previous battles? Kid's pupils widened and his mouth opened wide. Suddenly thought of something. The aftermath of the previous ones almost ruined the first half of the Grand Line battle. Is that what the man did? And if that man appears here now, does it mean? All kinds of crazy thoughts in Kid's heart shook. And that monster came here again. Kid's expression changed drastically, and he subconsciously turned his head to look at Mariejois, a holy place located above the Sabaody bottom islands. Crazy, crazy. And at this moment, the sea, facing the present naval headquarters Marineford, is only an hour's flight away. Slapping Marine's so-called justice in the Sabaody bottom islands who don't know how many times. Bayi looked around with both eyes. Subsequently, the gigantic Reiatsu suddenly enveloped the entire Sabaody archipelago. Boom. Yes. From the very beginning, Bayi had no intention of wasting time with a group of insignificant characters. Now that world government is close at hand. So, let's get straight to the point. His eyes calmly gaze at the Sabaody islands below the sky. Behind it is world government. The dreaded Reiatsu comes crashing down. Boom. This moment. This is when the sea near the Sabaody Islands began to swell violently, and the spreading ripples began to turn into huge waves. Visible to the naked eye, the space on the sea began to tremble. Distorted. Thereafter, on the entire Sabaody Islands. First, the special colorful soap bubbles produced by the Yarchman mangrove under the photosynthesis collectively eat, and then they all shatter with a click sound. Follow closely. Plop, plop, plop. In various areas on the Sabaody Islands, there are constant falling sounds. A pirate who is trying to leave the Sabaody Islands or gathers his subordinates suddenly feels a terrible pressure descending on the entire Sabaody Islands. Next moment, facing this sudden unimaginable horror pressure, a large number of pirates on the Sabaody Islands were directly crushed to the ground. Can't move. What's going on? What happened again this time? Could it be that another monster appeared in the first half of the Grand Line? Various areas of the Sabaody Islands. The expression of the pirate who didn't know what happened changed. Subconsciously wanted to prop up his body, but as a result, the veins on his forehead burst out, and his entire face was flushed red. Instead of standing up, he spit out a mouthful of blood. He passed out on the spot. And this is not what makes the pirate feel the most trembling. Some pirate captains who were still barely conscious suddenly found out. At this moment, under the pressure of terror descending on the Sabaody Islands, more than half of the pirates on the Sabaody Islands have been directly killed or injured. Yes, a large number of pirates are not unconscious. Instead, they directly turned into gradually icy corpses. This scene appeared in every area of the Sabaody Islands. Now, Area 12 of Sabaody Islands. Hey, this is really bad. Quote. The strange monk, Yuroj, stood stiffly on the grass, with cold sweat all over his forehead, and the bean-sized river water crazily drops on the grass. Feeling that Mingming wanted to retreat countless times from the bottom of his heart, but his whole body didn't listen to him at all. Strange monk, Yuroj is unimaginable. How terrible is the man at sea who is walking towards the Sabaody Islands? And, just by unleashing conquerors, a guy like that, how is it possible? Kid noticed that a large number of pirates who had been crushed to the ground nearby had turned into corpses. Even among his men, only a few such as Kira and Hit, who spit out blood, can still persist on the ground. Kid's pupils dilated sharply, feeling the faintly shaking Sabaody bottom islands under his feet. A lot of cold sweat began to ooze from Kid's forehead, and it kept sliding down. He couldn't believe it at all. This is the movement caused by the terrible monster not far away before landing on the Sabaody Islands. Huo, Hawkins, this means that if you choose to fight, the chance of losing is 100%. If you shoot at it, is it a monster that all of us will die? Are you sure you didn't make a mistake? Another supernova, Apu, spoke in a trembling tone. He was the first supernova pirate who couldn't hold on anymore, and was crushed to the ground by the huge Reiatsu. Apu grabbed the grass with both hands, raised his head with difficulty and shouted. According to this, even if that man doesn't need to make a move, all the pirates in Sabaody's bottom islands will be wiped out just by relying on such terrifying conquerors. As soon as this remark came out, Kid's group couldn't help trembling when they heard it. He looked up at the man on the sea who was walking towards the Sabaody Islands as if walking on a level ground. This moment, an unstoppable trembling madness welled up in their hearts. The Conquerors, which is far more terrifying than just now, can't even be of the same quality as them. Go on like this. Maybe it will really be as Apu said. Even if that man didn't make a move, with the Conquerors released, the pirates on the entire Sabaody Islands would really be wiped out. Ah, what are you kidding? Body move, Kid roared inwardly. At the same time, boom, CDFG. It's not just the Sabaody Islands that have been affected by the horror of Reiatsu. Behind the Sabaody Islands lies above the red line. Holy Land, Mariejois. Asshole, what the hell is going on outside? Could it be that some pirates attacked Mariejois? He felt the red line trembling faintly under his feet. The various celestial dragons' families living in Mariejois, aware of this change, looked angrily at the CPO organization responsible for protecting themselves. My lord, we will report this matter to Lord Five Elders immediately, please rest assured. The CPO members had cold sweat on their foreheads, bit the bullet and quickly knelt down to explain. With the safety of the Holy Land, it is absolutely impossible for anyone in this world to threaten Mariejois. Even those pirates who can be called the Four Emperors in the New World. That's good. Otherwise, you don't need to continue to exist. Go and be the same as those untouchables outside, and let me be the most despicable slave. Celestial Dragon's angry voice fell. Hearing this, the members of the CPO organization noticed that there were rows of numb slaves outside, so he hurriedly left, not daring to stay for a moment. And these scenes resemble each other, or constantly appearing in various celestial dragons' families. For a while, CPO members all over the holy place, Mariejois, spring into action. And at this moment, the Sabaody bottom archipelago under the world government. There are more than 9 layers of pirates on the bottom islands of Sabaody. At this time, the terrifying Reiatsu unleashed by Bayi has taken their lives abruptly. The crime paradise of yesteryear. Now it has turned into the most terrifying hell. Bayi is now landing on the Sabaody Islands. He witnessed the scene of a large number of pirates dying on the Sabaody bottom islands. The indifference in his eyes did not change at all. An irrelevant little guy is not worth Bayi's time wasting. How many pirates will die? Bayi didn't care at all. Because it is a pirate who can come to Sabaody Islands. There is no such thing as an innocent person, including those auction houses responsible for the slave trade and so on. In this criminal paradise, pirates who have never committed the crime of massacring cities and towns are like sheep coming to a pack of wolves. They have already been eaten up without having to fight day and night. And this time, Bayi also met Kid, a supernova pirate known as the Evil Generation. Area 12 of the Sabaody Islands, below the Alchiman Mangrove. What to do? That monster is coming, here it is. War, are you going to fight? Strange monk, Uroge's brain was running wildly, but his body didn't obey orders at all. The same is true of Kid and Hawkins and his party. When facing the moment when Bayi will set foot on the Sabaody bottom islands, the cold sweat of Kid's group instantly soaked their backs. That is the overwhelming and irrepressible fear that can only be felt by witnessing it with your own eyes. Die. Absolutely die. No need to probe. That kind of monster is definitely not something they can deal with. It is absolutely impossible to win. At this time, a pirate who couldn't suppress his fear suddenly exploded. The pupils of Kid's group froze, and instantly recognized the identity of the bearded pirate. Giant Claw, Char. A reward of 110 million Baileys is offered. Although he failed to go to New World several times, he did not become one of the supernovas of the generation of evil. But looking at the entire Sabaody Islands, their strength should not be underestimated. However, that idiot, seeing the giant claw, Charles take the initiative to attack that man. The Kid group thought of the results of the Hawkins tarot card divination. The heart suddenly changed wildly. Stop him. Strange monk, Uroge just opened his mouth and roared. However, Giant Claw, Charles woke up from a coma, and saw that the men around him were basically dead and injured, and he was so angry that he only wanted to make a move. Apart from Bayi in his eyes at this time, he didn't care about anything else at all. Wait for Kid and his group to react. Giant Claw. Char had already rushed in front of Bayi. Casting the Zone Dragon Fruit Ancient Species, Sickle Dao Long, a pair of sharp, giant claws, that turned into sharp hands has fallen. Result. The scene where Kid and his group's faces changed wildly appeared. Bayi's figure didn't seem to move. Or because the action was too fast, when their naked eyes reacted. A slashing light has already flashed. Thereafter. That was the body of Shire. The giant claw froze in place, and then was split in two. Blood was splashed on the grass. Boom. This scene caught the eyes of Kid and his group. Fear instantly engulfed their nerves. Hey, such a monster can never win. Strange Monk, Yuroge, Kid and others subconsciously glanced at each other. Immediately. Run. Yes, this is their first reaction now. Hawkins did his part, and directly cast his Devil Fruit ability to transform into a large scarecrow, and crazily left towards the distance. As a fortune teller, Hawkins couldn't be more aware of how dangerous the situation is right now. Especially the moment when the giant claw, Charles made a move. A strong, death appearance, has appeared on everyone present. No need to think about it. If continue to stay here. Hawkins has no doubt that he, including Kid and Yuroge, will definitely die here. Because that is not an existence that they have any possibility to defeat. Hado Fourth White Thunder. Hawkins just turned around. Bayi's indifferent voice sounded. Hawkins felt a terrible force coming from behind. Afterwards, the entire scarecrow's body was instantly swallowed up by it. But Hawkins immediately stood up again, and the only remaining subordinate not far away suddenly died. This is exactly one of Hawkins' abilities. He can transfer the damage to his subordinates instead of dying. However, it can transfer damage several times compared to normal. Hawkins is well aware. I will definitely not be so lucky next time. It's really a troublesome ability. Frowning slightly, Bayi saw Hawkins, who had run hundreds of meters, stand up again. Without the slightest hesitation, another Hadoji Sibile was fired. Because Bayi has no intention of wasting time in Sabaody Islands. Since there are pirates who have shot at him, then kill it easily. As a traverser, Bayi is very clear. In front of them, whether it's the monk, Yuroge, the magician, Hawkins, Kid and a group of people. Each one is a pirate whose hands are stained with countless blood. Among them, they were able to win the number 1 supernova ranking, and Kid and his party were even famous for their brutal methods of slaughtering civilians. Such a guy, according to Death, will only be better for this world. Well, at this time, the supernova monk, Yuroge, ran out for nearly 100 meters, and suddenly turned back again. Looking at Bayi, who made him tremble physically and mentally in front of him, the strange monk, Yuroge kept dripping cold sweat, but chose to throw his weapon brazenly at him. Since it is difficult to escape, let me see the world's top monster with my own eyes. I saw the end of Hawkins' life and death. Strange monk, Yuroge gritted his teeth and chose to attack. Yes, if you escape, you are doomed to die here. It's not as good as he desperately, maybe 1 or 2 lucky guys can survive. At the same time, the moment of the shot. He also wants to know, with his own strength, how long can he delay the man in front of him? 10 seconds, or 5 seconds, or 3 seconds. The weapon smashed hard at Bayi. Next moment, strange monk, Yuroge knew the answer to the question. It is less than 1 second. The weapon and the body were cut open. The corpse with wide-eyed eyes fell heavily on the ground. It shows that the supernova monk, Yuroge, died directly. Are you kidding me? The body was overwhelmed by Reiatsu on the grass, and Apu looked at the end of the monk, Yuroge, his face changed wildly. Although they knew that it was a monster that they could not defeat. But as a member of the supernova, the gap between their strength and that man's is too huge. Die. Absolutely die. Apu was dripping with cold sweat. In the blink of an eye, 2 supernovas were almost dead. He has no doubts. All of them will already be as the result of Hawkins' divination. All their supernovas will die here. And at this moment, Bayi set his sights on Mariejois, the Holy Land, behind the Sabaody Islands. Afterwards, Bayi looked around Supernova Kid and Apu and others lying on the ground. Said calmly, whether it's trying to escape, or preparing to fight. Let's all go together. I don't have time to play around with you. The calm voice fell. You fool. Stop looking down on people. This is Kira, the kid pirate group lying on the ground, spit out a mouthful of blood, and stood up abruptly. I want to be ready to give kid time with my life. Result. Even though Kira is also one of the supernovas. Even the strange monk, Yoroj, was instantly killed. Not to mention Kira, whose strength is not too different among the current supernovas. Kira brandished a scythe, but hadn't gotten close to Bayi yet. The flames released by Ryujin Jaka have formed an absolute, forbidden zone. Under the unparalleled and terrifying temperature of the sky-high flames, Kira's flesh and blood melted quickly, exposing the bones, and then directly turned into ashes on the spot, dissipating with the wind. Kira. The face of Kid at the back changed suddenly, seeing his companion die with his own eyes. Kid didn't care too much, and let out a firm roar. Kid brazenly activated the Devil Fruit ability, absorbing all the weapons in the hands of the nearby dead pirate corpses to his arms. Not long after, it was a giant mechanical arm composed of countless metal weapons and slammed at Bayi. However, the giant mechanical arm with countless weapons assembled by magnetic force has not yet fallen. It has been melted by the high temperature of Ryujin Jaka. Subsequently, this is Bayi swinging Ryujin Jaka to cut down. The entire rapidly melting mechanical arm was cut open from the middle in an instant. Zongguang spared no effort to continue to enlarge the pupil of Kira behind the mechanical arm. It's over, it's over. Kid's pupils shrank sharply, and his face suddenly changed wildly. Not long. Area 1 of Sabaody Islands. It is also the largest and darkest concentration of slave trade in the entire Sabaody Islands. Now, somewhere in an auction house, the figure of Bayi appeared here. In front of Bayi. This is an auctioneer in charge of the largest slave auction house on the Sabaody archipelago, squatting on the ground, his body shaking uncontrollably. Seeing this, Bayi didn't say much. Directly use Wei Mian to look through the memory of the other party. After a while, the auctioneer of this slave auction house had a lot of memories. Found it. Bayi opened his eyes, and there was a hint of coldness in his eyes. He's coming to the Sabaody archipelago, an auction house ruled behind the scenes by celestial dragons. Its purpose is very simple. The celestial dragons living in the Holy Land of Mariejois love to do one thing. That is to come to the slave auction house in the Sabaody Islands from time to time to buy slaves. Every time the celestial dragons come, though no record is left. But Bayi can write down all the celestial dragons who have been to the Sabaody Islands by reading memory. This prevents any celestial dragons being missed when destroying Mariejois. And in the memory of the person in charge of the slave auction just now, Bayi discovered the identity of the celestial dragons previously killed in North Blue, the future heir of the Rose family of celestial dragons on Mariejois. Besides, since the establishment of this slave auction house, a total of no fewer than 100 celestial dragons have visited here. It can be seen that the number of celestial dragons living in Mariejois is far more than what the outside world can see. Subsequently, Bayi finished obtaining the information he wanted. Burn down the filthiest place on the Sabaody Islands with one blow. It is also Bayi who will clean up the celestial dragons without a single start. Bayi then walks out of the burning slave auction. Okay, seeing a figure, he couldn't help but stop day and night. In front of him was a silver-haired old man holding a western sword. Through the memory of being a time traveler, the person in front of Bayi is none other than Pluton, Rayleigh, who used to be known as One Piece, Roger's right wrist. Watching Rayleigh coming, he thought day and night. If it's the lives of those supernovas, you're already too late. No, it's already happened. Even if I go, it won't help, and besides. Rayleigh felt the pressure from the man in front of him. Rayleigh shook his head and said, if even the red-haired Shanks loses to you, I'm not sure I can stop you. I'm here because I want to tell you that the noise you made is too great. Seeing Rayleigh, who had no intention of doing anything, Bayi asked. So, Rayleigh raised his head, looked at Mariejois behind the Sabaody Islands, and said, I'm here to give you a piece of advice. You are very strong, maybe even stronger than the original Rocks pirates and Roger. But once you go, there is still a high possibility that you will never return. The real background of the world government is that it can be overthrown by one person alone. Rayleigh's face showed a dignified expression. If you have experienced the era back then, you should know that the rocks pirates couldn't do it back then, and Roger didn't have the chance to do it later. The world government has been able to dominate the sea for so many years, and there must be something hidden that ordinary people can't know. Secret. Rayleigh said in the end, with a look of incomparable fear of the world government on his face. After all, even when the three sisters of the Empress Hancock were rescued, there was no news of Rayleigh's appearance in the world, which shows how afraid the world government is in the Electric Eyes. However, Point 0. Bayi listened to the advice from Rayleigh, but didn't have much reaction. If it is an ordinary person, Tien will probably think carefully about the advice of Rayleigh, the legendary right hand of the One Piece. But for Bayi, who is a time traveler, Bayi actually knows a lot about the secrets of the world government, including the existence of I Am, that almost no one in this world knows about. Although maybe the world government still has hidden cards beyond Bayi's knowledge. But, even so what? Rocks that have failed in the past are rocks. Roger is Roger. Now that Bayi has come here, then, the fate of the world government has already been doomed. Bayi looked at Rayleigh, and said in Rayleigh's discoloration, "Since you're not here to fight, then stay here and watch with your own eyes, the doomed end of the world government." Bayi's voice fell. Bright orange-red flames emerged from Rujin Jaka's hand. Next moment, Bayi didn't hesitate at all. Straight to the point. Rujin Jaka fell with a bang. Boom. This was in the midst of Rayleigh's pupil dilation. Located on the red line behind the Sabaody Islands. Accompanied by the soaring hot and high-temperature flames that seemed to tear the sky. The fall of the Alchman mangrove. This is a terrifying cut scar that melts close to 1,000 meters. From Area 1 of Sabaody Islands. Eye-catching and ferocious, it makes people tremble until it spreads towards the Holy Land, Mariejois. For a while, the entire Holy Land, Mariejois was in violent shaking. Boom. What happened? The whole holy place is shaking. Is there an enemy who dares to invade the world government? Are you kidding me? Mariejois shook suddenly and violently. The expressions of all the people staying in the world government couldn't help but change. When some advance personnel ran outside to check the movement and when it happened. They just came out of world government. The first reaction was to freeze in place immediately. Because they are within reach. It was a slash from the Sabaody Islands below, starting with the severing of the Alchman mangrove. Then all the way from the red line. Until the terrifying cut scars that spread to the front of the world government. The scorching traces that have not cooled down and released high temperature are reminding that all this is not an illusion, but the reality that happened before their eyes. And at the end of its ghastly slash, it was a man holding a simple and ordinary taedao, whose sunlight was blocked by the fall of the Archiman mangrove song, showing a half-shaven figure of a man standing there. No action though, but the advanced staff of the world government looked at the figure below. It was a burst of scalp numbness and a huge shock in the mind. Yes, it is true that someone dares to make a move against the world government. How many years? No pirate has ever dared to invade the world government in this sea. Even those monsters known as emperors of the sea in New World don't have the courage, do they? Not to mention, their mouths opened wide and their eyes widened. See clearly, that was only one figure. That's all. Alone, dare to attack the world government. Make a move that no one has ever dared to do in this sea. Crazy, crazy. The advanced staff of the world government couldn't help swallowing their saliva, and their minds were in a frenzy. Next second, following the footsteps of the man whose figure was half covered by the collapsed Archiman mangrove. Boom. The ground in the number 1 area of Sabaody's bottom archipelago sinks instantly. It spreads outward layer by layer. That figure was coming straight for Mariejois, facing the figure of the man whose pupils were dilated. It was only after the members of the advanced world government who were standing there that they realized it. Their faces changed drastically and they shouted. Enemy attack. Someone is really attacking the world government. Quick, hurry up and sound the alarm. Have someone inform those 5 adults. At the same time, world government's highest meeting room is here. Morgans is a nasty guy who brought down the CPO and dared to expose the scandal of the world government to the public. That guy will definitely pay for it. 5 elders had already left Pengu City at this moment, discussing how to deal with the betrayal of the World Economic News newspaper. Apparently, at this time, the 5 elders had already learned about the storm that was raging in the New World through the phone bug. No doubt, world government's defeat this time. Then it was publicized by the World Economic News under the control of Morgans. All the prestige that the world government has established with the outside world over the past few hundred years. They will all become stepping stones for that sinner to gain fame again. This is something that they and the world government cannot accept anyway. But suddenly, just as the 5 elders with blonde hair and beards spoke angrily, suddenly, boom, a sudden violent shaking came from under his feet. The faces of the remaining 5 elders who were about to speak changed all at once. The 3 stood up together and said, "What happened? This movement, what happened outside?" The shaggy bearded 5 elders have no openings. But with a serious face, he stared at the teacup in front of him, which couldn't stop the rippling tea. Next second, suddenly, "No, it's not good. Master 5 elders." It was a CPO member who hurried in. "Tell me what's going on outside." 5 elders with a long beard changed his face slightly and asked. The eyes of the other 5 elders immediately converged. Feel the pressure of Chi-Chi coming. The CPO member's forehead was covered with cold sweat, and he stammered. "Yes, there are enemies invading the world government." The voice fell, holding the ghostly bald 5 elders of first generation, and the other 5 elders' expressions changed. What? The movement just now was caused by someone invading the world government? Are you kidding me? Who's the enemy? Is that Kaido? 5 elders' complexion changed. Someone dared to invade the world government. This seems to them to be an impossible thing at all. As for the sinner, 5 elders didn't think about Bayi at all. After all, Kong is empty, Kaido. In addition, Master, I am, use the power of Uranus's. Even if the sinner doesn't die, now it is certain that he can only recuperate in a certain corner of the world. Therefore, if that sinner hadn't died under Uranus's attack, the biggest possibility is Kaido, who is like a reckless man. Enemy, there is only one enemy. After the CPO member finished speaking, he added. In addition, the enemy is not the 4 emperors Kaido of New World, nor is it suspected of any 4 emperors, but rather, the sinner that Marine sent Admiral to fail to eliminate. ... Quote. Sinner. Hear this familiar title. The 5 elders were taken aback for a moment. Then his face became ugly. To be precise, the 4 of them had unbelievable expressions on their faces. After all, the sinner went through successive battles. Even though Lord I Am used Uranus, Urano was lucky enough to survive. With the current situation, at least he should be seriously injured. How could it be so fast? The faces of the 5 elders were extremely ugly. 5 elders with a shaggy beard, holding a scepter, spoke. There is no doubt in the tone, and he said to the CPO members. You go down first, and go to summon the secret army to stop the sinner who dares to invade Mariejois at all costs. Yes, Lord 5 elders. The CPO members nodded and left in a hurry. An empty meeting room. The other 5 elders couldn't help but look at the backbone. There was a sharp look in the eyes of 5 elders with the fluffy beard. Said, the strength of that sinner seems to be stronger than we expected, but... The 5 elders with the fluffy beard paused. If he thinks that he can have the power to subvert the world government if he kills Kong, and survives Lord Im's attack, it may not be too true. One word at a time. A powerful aura emanated from the shaggy bearded 5 elders. He glanced at the other 5 elders, and calmly said, let's go. The responsibility of guarding the world government and Mariejois can't just be handed over to those outsiders. The world should understand what the consequences of daring to invade Mariejois will be. Since that Morgan's guy wants to see a living example, let the world know. Quote. Having said that, the 5 elders with the fluffy beard glanced at the other 5 elders, and said in a solemn tone. In addition, this is also the last chance not to disappoint Lord I Am. Last chance. 5 elders with blonde hair and beard changed slightly. And at this moment, Bayi has come to Mariejois, world government. As far as the eye can see. Not far away, the large-scale buildings of the world government are definitely incomparable to the grandeur of several naval headquarters combined. Best material, best design, and the top that symbolizes the highest power stands on the red line. And below the world government buildings, it is the Holy Land, Mariejois, the place where all the celestial dragons now live after the Valley of the Gods was destroyed. As far as the eye can see, it can be said to be a luxury that ordinary people living at the bottom cannot imagine. CPO agents guarded at every level, countless slaves captured from all over the world for their enjoyment. Even a random decoration on those buildings is enough to feed all the people in the towns of the Four Seas and even any island on the Grand Line. One can imagine, in the 800 years since the establishment of the world government, how much untold wealth has been collected from all over the world. But the more so, the coldness in Bayi's indifferent eyes is Yu Sheng. Because of all that world government and celestial dragons enjoy. It was built on the basis of countless destroyed kingdoms and destroyed towns. It can be seen that in North Blue, he was ordered to destroy the town where he lived for more than 30 years because of a random order. I'm afraid it's just the tip of the iceberg to achieve the power and wealth of the world government. Looking at this with both eyes is enough to shock the world. Bayi's eyes at this moment gradually calmed down again. Because in the face of this already rotten world, with his arrival, today, all of this is doomed and will become history. He will subvert this world with his own hands and bury the world government. Stop. Dare to invade the world government, do you know what the consequences will be? Suddenly, a soldier named World Government poured out from various places. Apparently with the sound of the alarm. All forces in the world government have discovered Bayi, the intruder. From various places, it is continuously gathering. Almost instantly, in front of where Bayi is. Gathered into a dense one, and continued to gather, aiming various weapons at Bayi. Bayi saw this. Faced with this seemingly surrounded scene, there was no panic on his face. Because, this is not the first time he has faced this so-called dangerous situation. Same. Any enemy that blocks the way to subvert the world government, Bayi will kill them all without mercy. No need to speak. The majestic Reiatsu is the best response. Boom. Boom. The almost substantive majestic Reiatsu emerges, blowing the corners of Bayi's body. Thereafter, it is as if endless Reiatsu spreads in all directions. Come down to the whole world government Mariejois. Plop, 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 visible to the naked eye. The guards of the world government rushing from various places were crushed to the ground by the thundering Reiatsu. What is happening? Bah, Conqueror's Haki. What is this? Can someone's Conqueror's Haki be so exaggerated? Pointing various weapons at Bayi's guards were almost immobilized collectively. Someone suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. Someone died directly from not being able to bear Reiatsu. If the consciousness can be clear, it is difficult to raise the head and look around. But he saw a scene of incomparable fear and trembling that he would never forget in his life. This is the history of the world government that has never been invaded by anyone. That man is alone, only with the release of the unprecedented Conqueror's Haki. It makes the entire Mariejois building shake faintly. Not only that, a large number of cracks visible to the naked eye began to emerge from near the man's feet. Can't stop spreading. At this moment, the red line's extremely hard surface began to appear one after another incomparably huge cracks. It collapsed everywhere. Is the world government really about to be destroyed? Seeing this scene, the guards of the world government present could not help but collectively change countenance. They are unimaginable. What you see now, what kind of terrifying monster man is this? Conquerors, Haki released alone. Just shaking Mariejois. This is the world government. Any sinner who dares to invade the world government. Absolutely unforgivable. It was not far away that a large number of members of the CPO organization emerged in action. However, when feeling the horror to the extreme Reiatsu, most of the CPO members also ended up the same as the guard soldiers who poured out before. Reiatsu's body was firmly pressed to the ground by the terrifying force in the air that could distort space. Only some of the headed CPO chiefs are barely capable of standing. They stared at the pupils under the masks, looking at the horrific scene outside the world government. First, I felt a shock in my heart. Immediately, he came back to his senses. It turns out that the target of all this horrible situation outside turned out to be only one man. Several CPO officers suppressed their fear and gritted their teeth and rushed towards Bayi brazenly. Shave. Casting Marine 6 styles, the figure moves with difficulty in the air all over Reiatsu. Then this is the finger pistol or tempest kick focused on flying to Bayi. This is world government. It's not a place where sinners can be allowed to run wild. Stop it. Go to hell. Various roars sounded. All the attacks fell towards Bayi. However, irrelevant little guy, not worth my time. Bayi raised his eyes. Reiatsu further intensified. This is the flying attack directly crushed by the huge Reiatsu. Thereafter, Bayi raised his hand. Ryujin Jaka wrapped in flames and seemed to cut out at will. Boom. The scorching high temperature instantly appeared in the whole Mariejois that is now under the trembling. This is the 5 or 6 CPO officers who rushed to Bayi were instantly engulfed by the scorching heat, exposing the flesh and bones, and then turned into ashes and dissipated in midair. Strange, monster. Witnessing that Bayi killed 5 or 6 CPO officers who were at least comparable to the Marine Elite Vice Admiral with a single blow. The hearts of the remaining world government guards present trembled. And at this time, not far away, Lord Rose Saint, this place is very dangerous, please retreat. Are you kidding me? Retreat. The sinner who killed Ben's son is on Mariejois. You let Ben go away. Both Marine and you are all trash. Get out of my way. It's a blonde middle-aged celestial dragon seated on a kneeling ground tall hemp wood slave. Holding the explosive collar chain connected to the slave's neck in his hand, he was looking extremely gloomy and angry. The CPO members present were just about to persuade them, but they were directly interrupted by the celestial dragons. Thereafter, this celestial dragons took out a whip and beat the completely numb slave below him, and shouted at Bayi in the distance. Sinner, you killed my son. I will never let you go. Whether it's you, your hometown, or any other so-called relatives and untouchables, they will become the most despicable slaves for generations. The voice of celestial dragons has not yet fallen. Suddenly, the face of the CPO member next to the middle-aged celestial dragons has changed drastically. Because the man who invaded the world government in the distance suddenly raised a finger. Immediately, Bayi watched indifferently. Hot oh no. 4. White thunder. A blue-white thunder flashed on the fingertips. Bayi didn't expect that the celestial dragons on the must-kill list would come to his door without having to look for it himself. That being the case, the family should naturally go on the road neatly. No, not good. Hurry up and protect Lord Rose Saint. The pupils of the nearby CPO members shrank sharply, and hurriedly gathered together. And at this moment, the patriarch of the Holy Family of Rose, who was sitting on the slave, was taken aback for a moment, and then his expression changed. That guy is crazy. Does he want to shoot Ben Sheng? I am a noble celestial dragons. How can a mere pariah dare to? My heart roared crazily. A blue-white thunder that tore through the air had already begun to reflect into the pupils of the patriarch of the Rose Holy Family, and it continued to enlarge. Then, it is difficult for a CPO officer whose strength has reached the strength of Marine Vice Admiral to persist in front of Bayi for a moment. Not to mention members of a group of ordinary CPOs. Rayleigh, unsurprisingly engulfed the CPO members who stood in the way. Afterwards, it continued to spare no effort to engulf the patriarch of the Holy Family of Rose above the slaves. Wait for the guards from the nearby follow-up world government to come. The charred corpses of celestial dragons fell to the ground. The scene that happened to catch everyone's eyes shocked everyone. God, celestial dragons, died, and the one who died was the patriarch of the celestial dragons family. The guards of the world government who dared to come after the scene were all pale. As the force responsible for guarding the Holy Land, Mariejois. On the premise of being absolutely loyal to the orders of the world government. The celestial dragons living in Mariejois have always been the noblest and most untouchable family of gods. As the name suggests, each celestial dragons, in the eyes of the soldiers of Mariejois, they should be treated almost as if they were gods. All celestial dragons' requirements must be met unconditionally. No violations are allowed. However, this is the celestial dragons who usually have an absolute, privileged, class. Even the head of a family of celestial dragons. Just like that, he died in front of all of them. This moment, It gave an extremely strong impact to the hearts of everyone present. Follow closely. Kill, must kill him. This sinner must not be allowed to leave Mariejois alive. No. Otherwise the consequences of the death of celestial dragons are definitely not something we can bear. The guard gritted his teeth after recovering. Forcibly aim the weapon at the man exuding a terrifying aura in the distance, and then pull the trigger. For a time, various attacks continued to fly. But these so-called attacks entered the field formed by Reiatsu. It was as if they had fallen into a heavy quagmire. The attack has not yet come to Bayi. The bullets will fall directly to the ground. If you slash, you will be crushed directly. Those who try to get close should feel the pressure of Reiatsu in the air. If there is not enough strength, it will be difficult for the body to move. Bayi witnessed this scene. I didn't care at all. Or, Chang Doran Ying, who felt that each of the 5 paths in the distance had a powerful aura that was not inferior to the previous, Kong, rushed over. Bayi looked up, eyes indifferently said, even if it is you, it seems that you will finally be unable to sit still. As far as the eyes can see, the 5 old figures. Not someone else. It is the 5 elders who apparently control the entire world government. The temper is more fiery, and the 5 elders with blonde hair and beard can't stop trembling when they see the red line outside the world government, and even the sky changes color slightly. He looked ugly, gritting his teeth. Dare to invade the world government, this must be your last move. Most regretful move. Bayi heard the words. Seeing the 5 elders appear, Bayi showed disdain in his eyes. I thought in my heart, in this way, the side will start, right? Yes, Bayi before coming to Mariejois. Let Rayleigh, who gives advice, watch how the world government is subverted below. Had Rayleigh do a trivial favor by the way. Thereafter, Bayi asked in 5 elders' discoloration. Besides you, whereas I am. The sound is calm and not loud. However, when this name that was unfamiliar to the outside world and countless people on Mariejois appeared, 5 elders was taken aback for a moment. Then it was a collective design change. Shut up, shut up. Who's that? Sabaody on the bottom islands. Rayleigh heard Bayi's voice above Mariejois. Rayleigh's expression changed. Can make the 5 elders change their colors in unison, even shouting, shut up, in a roar. It can be seen that the meaning behind this name is definitely not destined to be simple. Subsequently, Rayleigh thought of the little favor the man had entrusted just before boarding the Mariejois. Rayleigh hesitated for a moment, took out a silver phone bug with jamming ability from his pocket, and jumped up. Then, Rayleigh replaced the phone bug that was originally connected to the Summit War line with a line connected to the Holy Land, Mariejois. Yes, this is the little favor that Bayi asks Rayleigh to do before he cuts down the Yarchman mangrove and boards the Mariejois. Bayi is going to reveal the whole process of destroying Mariejois to the outside world. Now that the world government took advantage of Summit War's secretive behavior, it launched a so-called demon-slaying operation against him. Then Bayi will do the opposite. He'll let the whole world see it. How the Holy Land, Mariejois turned into ruins step by step. And at this moment, as the Marine government broadcasts the Summit War to the world, the phone bug line begins to be disrupted. For a while, starting from the Sabaody Islands, Naval Headquarters, Marineford, and then to the phone bug that connects all over the world relayed by Naval Headquarters. All images related to Summit War suddenly blurred, and then disappeared. What happened? Could it be that someone hacked the phone bug route of the Marine government? Who is it that can have such courage? Witness all footage related to Summit War disappear. People from all over the world couldn't help but Chi-Chi's expression changed and he got up. At the same time, Naval Headquarters, Marineford. What the hell is it? Did someone interfere with the Marine line? Exclamation mark. Did someone destroy the phone bug from outside? Standing on the execution platform, Sangoku noticed the blacked-out screens around Marineford for the first time, and was stunned for a moment. Then Sangoku ordered people to prepare for emergency repairs as soon as possible, and there was absolutely no room for loss. After all, these phone bugs carry the task of relaying projections to all parts of the world. Now it is a matter of whether Marine can recover its previous 2 successive defeats in the extermination operation in this Summit War, which has caused the Marine government's prestige to be lost. Therefore, Sangoku does not allow any surprises at this time. Moreover, the world government has personally stepped forward to encircle and suppress that sinner, even using some kind of terrible force that would destroy the first half of the Grand Line. Although Summit War has been delayed so far due to various reasons, but with the lineup prepared by the Marine government for this trip, it must be the purpose of destroying the Whitebeard pirates here. Marine will definitely win the final victory. Sangoku believes in it. However, suddenly, just at this time, the 4 projected phone bug screens that had been located around Marineford came back on again. Has it been fixed? Sangoku breathed a sigh of relief. But the next moment, the image shone on the projection screen above Summit War. But it made Sangoku, the Marine Admiral, change his face drastically. Because the picture that should have appeared on the entire screen, I saw that it was not the current Naval Headquarters Marineford at all. But Sangoku is the Marine Marshal, the world government he is all too familiar with. The Holy Land, where Mariejois is located. Just compared to Sangoku's impression. The almost always immaculate, high shrine Mariejois. At this moment, the Holy Land, Mariejois on the broadcast screen is trembling constantly. Countless fissures continue to extend towards the perimeter of the Red Line. In addition, there are corpses and blood of world government guards everywhere. Sangoku couldn't help but froze in place for a moment, his face covered with shock. This is really where the world government in his impression is located. Holy Land, Mariejois. No, this is... Sangoku's face suddenly changed, and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Someone has launched an attack on the world government in Mariejois. This moment, without hesitation, Sangoku immediately ordered people to find out and cut off the hacked phone line. As the Marine Marshal, Sangoku knows that better than anyone. The attack on the Holy Land, Mariejois is an extremely serious matter. And, once the attack on the Holy Land, Mariejois is broadcast to the world through the telephone worm line under the Marine government, Sangoku's heart sank. He can't imagine what a terrible storm the whole world will raise. And at this moment, as Sangoku feared, although Sangoku ordered people to find out the disturbed phone bug line at the first time and cut it off. But because Summit War's telephony bug is connected to projection screens all over the world. But, now the Holy Land, Mariejois. This behemoth is enough to make any power in the world change face. The unprecedented attack incident that is happening at this very moment has swept the entire world. As that? The sea, Naval Headquarters. No, where the hell is that up there? There's no way this is Naval Headquarters. And the clothes on those dead soldiers were, wait. No, it won't. Could it be that the place broadcasted on the projection is Holy Land, Mariejois? Hey, this is not a joke. In a town on the Grand Line, when most of the people nearby are very puzzled, a person who suddenly recognized the place on the projection. He paused, and then his voice trembled faintly. And the voice that could not stop trembling in the man's figure fell. The people in the whole town who were watching the projection screen also changed their faces collectively when they heard the words, lost their voices, and showed indescribable absolute shock on their faces. After all, holy place, Mariejois, did they hear correctly? In this world, an existence that can be called a Holy Land. Only, everyone's nerves burst instantly, and their scalps went numb. Could it be that the building on the projection is like a dreamy place now? Is it where the rumored world government is located? The holy place, Mariejois. Immediately, crazy. This is the first thought that pops up in everyone's heart. Is anyone ready to take advantage of the Summit War time? Taking the opportunity to invade Mariejois where the world government is located. An almost crazy idea was born. And this time, followed by an albatross responsible for delivering newspapers. A newspaper caught in sight fell on this unknown town. When the above, Operation Demon Slaughter, was exposed. And the unprecedented, lost no good prophet, of the world government. The news of the death of the Generalissimo of the world government's army, Kong, was sent to this town. Next moment, everyone's ears were buzzing like a bomb had been dropped. Scalp almost burst. And this scene, it's happening all over the world. After all, albatrosses may have a limit to how fast they can fly. The telephone bug line that was originally used to broadcast Summit War to the entire world. However, the current situation of Mariejois was clearly broadcast to every force in the world. And shop. Combine these messages. Everyone got a crazy idea in their minds that almost subverted their worldview. That man. Is this going to be like the Marine government using public executions to prepare to deal with the Whitebeard pirates to the world? To publicly destroy the world government, Mariejois. This almost suffocating thought floated in the minds of countless people. Almost instantly, it is enough to make any force on the Grand Line feel the unstoppable fear and madness gushing out of their hearts at this moment. New World, Dressrosa. Hey, hey, hey. Dover, it's the Holy Land, Mariejois if it's not wrong. The body seemed to be wrapped in a quilt made of blue snot, Toripole cried out. As far as the eye can see, on the projection is the Holy Land, Mariejois whose phone bug line has been switched off. Witnessing that the world government on the screen is constantly shaking the screen at this moment. Have anyone dared to attack the Holy Land Mariejois? Toripole first trembled physically and mentally, opened his mouth wide, and broke out in cold sweat. My first thought was that I couldn't believe what I was seeing. After all, that's not a joke, is it? To know the Holy Land, Mariejois is not naval headquarters. The Marineford kind of casually stands out over the sea on the first half of the Grand Line. The Holy Land, Mariejois is where the world government is. Standing on the red earth. Since its birth, it has always symbolized the pinnacle of world power. It is no exaggeration to describe it. Since the establishment of the world government in the Holy Land, Mariejois until now. Throughout hundreds of years of history, world government has never been invaded by any force in the true sense. Even the big pirates who can be called the Emperor of the Sea and have the title of Four Emperors in today's sea. I have never dared to shake the idea of the world government. One can imagine, someone dared to invade the Holy Land, Mariejois. Even, like the public executions at naval headquarters, the Holy Land Mariejois where the world government is located has been repeatedly and publicly destroyed. What a terrifying psychological impact this incident will bring to anyone and any force who is witnessing all this at this moment. All nations, Torrent, Big Mom Pirates resident, Cake Island. Well, Perospero, the eldest son of Big Mom Pirates, is holding a candy cane. At this moment, the door of a certain room on Cake Island was suddenly pushed open. Tell me what happened, Perospero. A cold voice suddenly sounded in the room, followed by a terrifying breath. In the shadows, a pair of huge pupils full of bloodshot eyes were exposed. It represents the owner who lives in this room, is one of the pirates known as the Four Emperors, on the sea. The captain of the Big Mom Pirates. Big Mom, Charlotte Linlin, one of the Four Emperors. Is that old guy Whitebeard finally dead? Or is my good brother Kaido finally planning to expand? Charlotte Linlin rubbed her eyes and asked. She probably had some guesses about what happened outside. Whitebeard dares to go to naval headquarters, Charlotte Linlin and Kaido agree. Don't think Whitebeard has a chance of winning. As for Kaido, what kind of personality is that guy? Charlotte Linlin thinks that no one in the world knows Kaido better than her. No, well, something big happened outside. Perospero shook his head violently. Big event, what can happen? Charlotte Linlin frowned, seeing Perospero sweating profusely. Could it be that Whitebeard guy who brought naval headquarters down? No, Perospero shook his head quickly. Displeasure appeared in Charlotte Linlin's eyes. Then what is the big deal? Someone outside is eyeing my mother's territory. No. Feel the sudden and dignified atmosphere in the room. Perospero waved his hands quickly. Then said hastily. Yes, something happened to Holy Land, Mariejois. A lunatic is attacking Holy Land, Mariejois. Holy place, Mariejois. What's the point of that kind of place? Wait. Charlotte Linlin was nonchalant at first, then soon. Think back to the words, holy place, Mariejois. Charlotte Linlin jerked to her feet. Then, with a palm full of rings, he grabbed the trembling eldest son of the family, Perospero, in his hand. The bloodshot pupils leaned forward and asked, Hello, Perospero, are you sure it's the Holy Land Mariejois? No, that's right. Well, Perospero felt a sudden suffocating and terrifying pressure, and immediately nodded wildly. There was a brief silence. Well. Charlotte Linlin put Perospero back on the floor. Charlotte Linlin suddenly had a fierce light in her eyes. Interesting. Holy Land, Mariejois, if my mother remembers correctly, it is the world government, right? What kind of lunatic actually dares to attack the world government? This world is really getting more and more interesting. In this way, Kaido is the most excited to face the next chaotic world, right? Yes. Well, there is one more thing. Perospero rejoiced that he had recovered his life, tremblingly added. And one more thing. Charlotte Linlin looked at the eldest son Perospero. Perospero nodded, and said with lingering fear in his voice. That's right, actually just now, Smoke from Beast's Pirates asked to see you. Jin, what is that guy doing here? Charlotte Linlin froze for a moment. Amazon Lily, Hydra, Edge, publicly destroying Mariejois. The mother-in-law opened her mouth wide and witnessed that the Summit War projected phone bug line was changed to Mariejois. A few drops of cold sweat flowed down Granny Yi's forehead. It shows the indescribably shocking heart of Granny Yi at the moment. And if that man boarded the Mariejois, doesn't it mean that the previous terrifying breath can directly cross the calm belt, and the battle to Nine Snakes Island is over? Facing the power dispatched by the world government in person. A force that no one of the four emperors can defeat. That man turned out to be the winner. At this time, as the albatross flew over the island of Hydra, a newspaper fell. Witnessing the contents of the newspaper in her hand, Grandma Za trembled physically and mentally, and her pupils shrank sharply. Is this true? The world government took advantage of the Summit War to launch a Operation Demon Slaughter. 10 folk monsters, countless. The team is led by the former Marshal Marine, who is currently the General Marshal of the World Government Army. Kong, empty. See the name. The mother-in-law's complexion changed slightly. Kong, empty. Is that guy still alive? In the past era of rocks is the supremacy of the sea. Kong was one of the Marine Admirals at that time. Although later promoted to Marine Admiral, the position of Marine Admiral Sangoku was handed over to Marine Admiral Sangoku decades ago. Kong has completely disappeared. Including some contemporaries who knew the existence of Kong, they all thought that Kong was dead. Unexpectedly, Kong is now the Generalissimo of the world government's army. And the mother-in-law widened her pupils as the news revealed that the Operation Demon Slaying, dispatched by the world government with an extremely powerful team, has all failed. Kong, empty, death. Immediately, Granny Z looked up at the phone bug projection on Mariejois now. The mother-in-law's heart trembled. The man who was alone. Maybe. Yes, Snake Princess. The mother-in-law jumped a few times and hurried towards the palace on Nine Snake Island. North Blue. CGBB, ha. Mr. Long, thank you. If it weren't for your coming, I'm afraid we would all be wiped out today. Carrie stayed at the port of the G64 Marine branch, looking at the man under the dark green cloak with a complex expression on his face. Carrie didn't expect that the people from world government would do such an amazing job. In order to erase all traces of Mr. Bayi's existence, he even planned to completely wipe out the entire G64 branch. It's okay, I learned about that gentleman from you, so let's take it as a matter of little effort. The leader of the Revolutionary Army, Long shook his head, and then he looked towards the sea. It was the fleet assembled in West Blue by the world government that had been wiped out by him. But at this moment, suddenly, this is an emergency contact phone bug calling. Okay, Long will never contact his phone minister when he sees this non-special period. Long frowned slightly, thought for a moment, and chose to take it. Next moment, the almost urgent voice of the top Revolutionary Army came from the phone bug. Dragon, something has happened to the Grand Line. Look, the phone bug projection that was originally used by the Marine government for public executions. Grand Line, no, yes, someone, no. The urgent voice of the deputy commander of the Revolutionary Army, Lightning, came from the phone bug. It's the man we were following earlier, he boarded the Mariejois. Marjoia. Long first froze for a moment. Immediately, the dragon's pupils froze suddenly. Mariejois, if he remembers correctly, and this time. Carrie beside Long was also stunned. In other words, Carrie's brain was buzzing for a while, and he couldn't imagine what he heard. Mariejois, isn't that where the world government is? And the concerned man in the phone bug. Carrie trembled. Could it be Mr. Bayi? At the same time, the external shocks continued one after another. It was the time when the sacred land, Mariejois, where the world government was located, was attacked and publicly destroyed, causing a sensation throughout the world. Now, Holy Land Mariejois is here. Boom, boom. This is intense and heavy, like the feeling of the sea pressing down on the sky. This monster. 5 elders was facing Bayi at this time, and when they looked up, they felt the extremely terrifying Reiatsu. The faces of the 5 could not help but change. They subconsciously focused their eyes on the man alone in the distance, holding a Ryujin Jaka. This is a bald head, wearing glasses, wearing a large white samurai robe, and the 5 elders who had been holding the first generation ghost in his arms before gritted his teeth. No matter where you heard that name just now, shut up. Voice off. Down. The bald 5 elders slowly pulled out the dark green scabbard hidden in the dark green scabbard. The blade has a blue wavy pattern and a dark purple demon knife. In an instant, the ghost of the first generation appeared, causing a terrifying life-swallowing breath to sweep away in all directions. Boom. This scene. Also shocked to see swordsmen all over the world destroying Mariejois nowadays. That is, first generation Gush, one of the legendary 12 craftsmen of the Supreme Kuaisao. Known as the strongest existence among all demon swords. Is it in the hands of the 5 elders who hold the highest power in the world government? No, not right. In other words, the 5 elders who hold the highest power, Yuanren is also a great swordsman. And he is a great swordsman with the power to subdue the strongest demon sword. Thus, doesn't it mean that the real number 1 swordsman in the world? The faces of countless swordsmen outside changed wildly. Now, shaking Mariejois violently. Shut up. Bayi looked at the 5 elders who appeared, showing a touch of disdain. It turns out that you, who hold the highest power in your hands, also have secrets that are feared to be known. The importance of I am. In the minds of 5 elders, it really has an extraordinary status. Originally, Sabo of the Revolutionary Army in the future was just about to mention the existence of the name, I am. Then came the suspected, Uranus attack, enough to wipe out a kingdom. It can be seen that this name is almost equivalent to the most untouchable, taboo, secret existence of the world government. The bald 5 elders snorted coldly and stepped forward. Sinner, what you shouldn't know is true. Holding the first generation ghost, the bald 5 elders' eyes are shining coldly. And your existence will directly destroy the stability of the world. In order to maintain this balance, you are doomed to die here. Balance. Bayi heard this extremely hypocritical word, flat title, from 5 elders' mouth at this moment after following the red hair. The disdain in Bayi's indifferent eyes intensified. The balance of the 3 forces. It sounds nice. It is to maintain the stability of the world. But to put it bluntly, behind it is nothing more than the idea of the world government taking the word hypocrisy to the extreme. Then let me see if I will die here, or if everything is destined to be subverted today. A coldness flashed across Bayi's eyes. The almost materialized Reiatsu surges like a scorching sea of fire covering the entire Mariejois sky. Thereafter, needless to say, Ryujin Jaka falls. Burn it, not only you, but also other people in the world government, and any celestial dragons, I will kill all of them. Bayi stood on the spot of the violently shaking red line in front of the world government, raising Ryujin Jaka with his right hand. Then cut it off. Boom. The scorching high temperature pouring endless flames are like the sea covering the sky. It almost occupies the entire sky in front of Mariejois. This force amount. The bald 5 elders couldn't help but show a look of emotion on his face. Feeling the overwhelming terrifying aura ahead, the bald 5 elders gritted his teeth. The sword in his right hand is purple, with a blue wavy pattern on it, first generation Onitsu. Don't be too arrogant, sinner. A roar. This is where Mariejois, world government is. It's not a place where sinners like you can be tolerated. First generation's Onitsu sword was placed horizontally in front of him, and the eyes of the bald 5 elders flashed sharply. The blue veins on the arms under the wide white warrior robes were bulging, and the corners of the clothes were blown by the breath. Next second, a purple-black slash with the breath of life suddenly flew out. At the same moment, the ominous atmosphere unique to the demon sword permeated everywhere. All world government soldiers who approached the five elders holding the first-generation Goosh lost their lives. The corpses on the ground looked like mummified corpses, with a horrible appearance that their vitality had been completely drained. As the worst and most difficult to control of all famous knives. When the evil spirit in the sword is strong, it can even control people's minds. And first-generation Ghost Toru is known as the strongest demon sword in all demon sword series. The condition of the knife. It is to devour life force. Boom. Followed by slash. This is the bald five elders exerting force on their feet and rushing towards Bayi. It is bound to kill Bayi completely here. And at this moment, facing the bald five elders, holding the first-generation ghost attack. There was no wavering in Bayi's eyes. Instead, he said slowly, as the real, highest, combat power of the world government, if only this level. He holds the Ryujin Jaka in his hand. A surge of flame appeared on the blade of Ryujin Jaka. Next second, directly engulf the flying life-swallowing purple-black slash. Burn it up. At the same time, Bayi showed strength. The pupils of the rushing bald five elders froze. Disappeared. Without hesitation, he assumed a fighting posture at any time, and the pupils of the bald five elders flickered. Where will people be? The bald five elders' thoughts raced wildly. Bayi's voice sounded again. I would be very disappointed. When the bald five elders heard this, their pupils froze and they whispered. Is it the side? First-generation Onitsu slashed down with all his might. The dark armament Haki emerges from the first-generation Onitetsu sword, completely turning it into a silent. Result. First generation is a ghost, but it doesn't have any sense of hitting things. The bald five elders suddenly noticed. The figure of the sinner has appeared in front of him. That scorching hot flames with Ryujin Jaka dilated pupils under bald five elders' lenses. No. Not good. The face of the bald five elders changed. Unleashes all the ominous breath of the first generation ghost. Attempt to prevent the fall of Ryujin Jaka. Result. First generation Onitsu contains an ominous power far beyond the sum of all demon knives combined. Before that terrible bright flame, it's like everything that is evil is on fire. There is no effective defense at all. How is this possible? The pupils of the bald five elders shrank sharply. In an instant, the extremely hot and terrifying flames erupted like a soaring tornado. The bald five elders gritted their teeth and desperately used the first generation ghost to resist. When the flames dissipate, this is the frightening scene where the bald five elders retreated tens of meters, gasped for breath, and almost saved their lives. The first generation ghost in his hand became scorchingly hot and steamed continuously, visible to the naked eye. Just a random knife. This guy. How terrible is his swordsmanship. The bald five elders raised his head, feeling a lingering fear in his heart. He stared at the figure of the man in front of him in disbelief. And at this moment, that rascal, behind the bald warrior five elders. In addition, the three five elders standing in front of the gate of the world government saw their companions miss, and their faces changed slightly. Next moment, they looked at each other. Looking behind him, there are several secret troops gathered by the CPO troops at this moment. Cold voice. Go together. Yes, Lords five elders. These are 7 or 8 senior CPO officers wearing masks. Nodding his head, the voice fell. Each casts the devil fruit ability immediately. A powerful aura emerges from the body. Thereafter, under the watchful eyes of 5 elders et al., the senior members of the CPU troop who use the devil fruit ability all jumped up. Left, right, behind. They attacked Bayi in 3 different directions. And in the face of such a seemingly dangerous situation, Bayi stood still. A sharp look appeared in his indifferent eyes. I saw that the next second when 7 or 8 people were about to be less than 5 meters away from day and night. Bayi moved. Ryujin Jaka arcs from top to bottom in midair. In a flash, torch, boom, the scorching bright orange-red flame instantly detonated everything around Bayi. No. Not good. The faces of the CPO members who used various devil fruit abilities changed wildly. Feel the overwhelming heat in front of you. Subconsciously want to escape. But before they could turn around, they were suddenly engulfed by the flames that caught their eyes. Several senior members of the CPO secret force roared. When the soaring flames dissipated, mid-air, boom, boom, boom. This is the figure of 7 or 8 people with extensive and severe burns falling heavily to the ground. I don't know if I live or die. One strike. Later. The remaining 4-5 elders remained unmoved, except for the backbone 5 elders with a fluffy beard. The pupils of the other 3 shrank sharply. Mouth slightly opened. There was a sudden shock in my heart. Those 7 or 8 members of the CPO secret force. Each one has been carefully selected by them. Possess a backup strength comparable to Marine Admiral. It's not comparable to those ordinary CPO members who can only be responsible for security work. How could it be so easy? Looking at the figure of the man exuding a terrifying aura. The tall 5 elders, with blonde hair and beard, tore off the gray robe behind his back and took a step forward. The facts are already there. Can't stand him not believing it. And that horrible monster. Anyway, everyone must die here. Dare to invade Mariejois, this is their last chance not to disappoint Master IM. It is also the best chance to completely kill these sinners who have far exceeded the level of the Rock's pirates. 5 elders with blonde hair and beard and 5 elders with long beards looked at each other. There was a tacit understanding in the eyes of the two. Let's attack that sinner together. A powerful aura emerges from itself. The two jumped off the field to join the bald 5 elders. Let's get rid of that guy together. The voice fell. The 3 nodded at the same time, witnessing Bayi's terrifying strength that has gone beyond the concept of human being with his own eyes. The 5 elders dare not be careless at all. Choose directly to join the battle. Each of the 5 elders exudes an aura of strength that is not inferior to that of Kong. Thereafter, the 5 elders joined forces to attack Bayi without hesitation. Bayi witnessed this scene. Swing the knife and kill all the senior members of the CPO who are still alive. Looking calmly at the 5 elders who joined forces, he said, I said, you will all die here, without exception. Come on. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.